Good morning and welcome to the Morning Connection. We are here live at the Ligani Club. Well, you know that every Thursday is like Christmas for us. We're grateful to the Ligani Club for hosting us here on Thursdays. And so we thank both the club or club family and JD's Urban Pub for their hospitality. We also thank you, the listeners, who join us on a Thursday morning. Thursdays, we don't do a lot of calls on Thursdays. So I know that when you join us on a Thursday, it's really to listen, and that's a blessing. So thank you to those who are online and those who have joined us on air. Thank you also to the crew back at the studio and in the house with us this morning who will make all things possible for us. Good morning, Pastor Percival. How are you?
Good. The sun is up. There's no mist, no gloom. It's up and about. The sun is here, always is here.
And there was your daughter.
My son and my daughter. And interestingly, what they say, the sun rises in the east.
So they say, but that's poetic. That's not scientific.
And it sets in the west. There was an east rising yesterday at Girls and Boys Championship.
Oh, that's also poetic.
Yes. Her name was East. And she won the class 400 meters. Ooh. I'm simply amazed in terms of the talent that keeps coming and rising to the fore yesterday. And one of the interesting things that is happening, the normal powerhouses in the championship, the KCs, JCs, Calabar, but no, you're here in school like Mushet. Where's Mushet? Where's Mushet High School? You know where that is?
No.
It's in Trelawney, Mushet High School, yes. And there's some like Steertown Academy, which is in your parish.
Mm-hmm. St. Anne.
It's St. Anne. Mm-hmm. So it was fabulous. And then the true champ stood out yesterday. There were rumors that our reigning world junior champion would have been beaten by Brianna Liston, but they went down to the line and the world champ prevailed. When you're a champion, you know. So if they want to take away your crown, they have to really come.
Have to fight you for it.
And they fought right down to the line, and Tiana Clayton triumphed in the end. But we have so much talent. I'm just looking on the women's side, and it looks like Shelley goes, Elaine goes, but then you have Brianna and right down to the 13, 14-year-olds. And I'm going, wow. On the men's side, we're coming back, so it's good.
Yes,
and
God
I think,
has blessed us.
Yes, right. And we have to be so grateful that a small piece of rock, which is about 8,000 square miles, they say, which is Jamaica landmass, has produced so many people that have done so well at every level in terms of world athletics. We're a powerhouse. And remember, you continue to declare that you can pull up that declaration that you speak about what will happen for Jamaicans. We see it happening all the time in terms of what our Father is blessed us, and He needs.
I'm pulling up the declarations because you've asked me to. There's
and we have
so many of them.
Yeah, and we need to continue to make those declarations of our nation.
All right, which one you want?
That we'll be flourishing. That's the flourishing one, the one that...
Oh, I have decreed a season of outstanding achievement.
Yes.
Yes, there are those.
A season of outstanding achievement, not only in athletics or sport, but in every area of endeavor. And I quote Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans that I have for you, Jamaica. Plans to give you a hope.
To prosper you.
And a future. Plans to prosper you. That you will not be defeated, and we will not be defeated. We continue to make that declaration over Jamaicans. Fear God and be blessed on this 7th day of April. 7th day of April, 2022.
Perfection.
Yes, it's come. A cycle has come to an end, and we will move into the new beginning. A new dawn is rising over our country as we speak. As the dawn has risen.
This month of April has so many significant
things
happening. Today is Dr. Claudine Miller. It's her birthday today. In this month too, we have the birthdays of some famous people in the Rastafarian community as well. A number of things are happening in this month. Happy birthday to my dear friend Claudine, from myself, the producer, and your Wino Club.
The Wino Club?
Yeah.
Wino Club.
Yeah.
You know, if you were wine in another country, what you'd be considered, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I hope it is not that.
We're not in another country.
Whatever it means. Language is a powerful thing because it goes across
right here.
Countries and borders, and it's interesting how some things have gone from Jamaica to other countries and has been accepted as a part of their natural
Can
language.
I tell you too? Right out the gate, we have Basco from, where is he? Why was I thinking he's in England? Anyway, we have Denatal Basco giving us greetings and salutations and giving thanks for the justice for Nzinga, which is showing up the injustices and corruption in Jamaica. So right out, this is with reference now to the
fact that she's won a case against the government,
and oh dear, what is her name? She's actually demitting office this week.
Oh, Harrison.
Miss Harrison.
The
public defender.
What she said?
She has come out and said that there should be damages awarded.
Okay.
So she has recommended that Nzinga should be compensated for the insult which she suffered, the cutting off her locks while she was in custody.
So does that carry weight? Because the public defender...
It does carry weight, whether,
accept it or not.
Whether it is acted on in a prompt fashion remains to be seen.
That's interesting.
Remember
last
lick. I tell you,
that came to mind.
It's a fabulous one, actually.
This is a last lick or a good last lick. You know, when you play... and you're ready to go home,
or bad light reach you.
You go last lick, so who get the last lick win, and they can't do anything to touch you. I love that.
Yeah, so I was intrigued by it because, of course, we know that the Office of the Public Defender is a commission of Parliament.
That's what I was referring to. Yes,
right, and it also means that while she makes this recommendation, it may or may not be accepted. But in any event, it's not enforceable unless Nzinga takes it further.
Is she going to take it further?
She has already taken it further.
Because she's done a civil suit.
The constitutional, absolutely. All right, so we've moved very briskly to the first break of the morning. It's 6:30 a.m. You're with the Morning Connection and your hosts, Minette and Percival. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Good morning and welcome back to the Morning Connection. All right, Pastor, need to stop laughing now.
It's a good day to be alive.
Yeah, and we could share it. Pastor came bearing gifts. He brought mangoes. So there's kind of a little inside joke going about. He handed the mangoes to someone, and then he told me he brought mangoes for me. So I'm just making sure. But thank you, Pastor, for sharing the bounty of the land. You know, earlier when you were speaking about the talented athletes that Jamaica lays claim to, because I won't say Jamaica has produced, because we know that the production happens in secret places.
You understand?
But I just wanted to say that this talent that we see being displayed in pretty much all spheres of life, and yes, that is one of the declarations that we want to see some changes in all spheres of life. Not just some, but everything that we touch, everything that we do, we should see it rising to a certain degree of excellence. This talent is the same wellspring of abundant life and goodness that gives us our great musicians, or great artists, or great lawyers, or great doctors, or great scientists. So far, I think we're only not getting great politicians. But suffice it to say, it is the same.
No, we have gotten some, but
wellspring
it is
of
sprinklings.
Yes,
and we want it to be a general
standard.
Yes,
that
must be a lot of samples.
True, that we produce at that level. But it gives me hope, because even as we talk about the greatness that we can display and that we currently display in some spheres, it means it is possible everywhere. So politicians, take heart. There is greatness in you yet to be uncovered.
We're encouraging it. We're calling it forth right now.
Pulling it out.
The name, the powerful name. We have to make the declarations because it's in the spiritual. And we now see the manifestation in the physical realm. Because you play such an important role in terms of the greatness that comes. Leadership, without leadership, great leadership that understands their place in the whole matrix and rubrics of what God is doing. You are we'd call it, somebody once said that within an organization, you cannot rise above the level of the leadership. They are what they call.
That's the pattern.
Yes, that is how it is.
They establish the benchmark.
They are the person that is the limiting factor in operations management, and you're trying to get something done, but there's that limiting factor, limiting point that you have to break it open. You have to crash it.
But you're exposing an idea whose time has come.
Yeah.
Namely, that there is a natural order to things that will emerge if you leave the field to grow and to mature on its own.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the leadership that you see at the helm is not the natural leadership that is emerging in the field.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, sometimes that is how you end up with military coups.
Yep.
When
an overthrow and totalitarian regimes.
Absolutely.
Authoritarian regimes.
I think the time has come where, rather than being trapped in a relationship, a dysfunctional relationship, where a process is creating leadership that does not fit, that does not work. We begin to search through and study the ground and find where the natural talent is emerging or where the necessary talent is emerging so that we can achieve change. I've gone in this direction because I see a thing happening. It's happening all around us. And in Jamaica, what we're exploring the various pockets of discontent to develop a better understanding of where the dissonance exists between what we have and what we want, what we're doing and what we should do, and to pull out of that exercise the things that are necessary for growth and for prosperity. Years ago, when I was looking at a renovation project, I started to dive into architectural
It piqued your interest.
Yes, my interest was stirred to begin to just interrogate how persons are doing things in the professional, as professionals in that realm. And I read an article that spoke about the development or the creation of public parks, and the designer.
How important it is.
The designer was saying that when you select the space in which you're going to put your park, you leave it and just study how people walk, where they go. And what you will see are some natural pathways emerging. That designer says he then goes and designs the walkways in his park. If he catches where people want to go, you won't find the tracks that are emerging in the grass, which you always, anywhere you look, you see a paved walkway, and then you see a beaten foot track. That's really where people want to go.
That's right, and that's such an important thing. It's such an important that we put these parts, but you're forcing people to do something. To
take an unnatural path
for them. Yeah.
Yes. So,
and even as a leader, if you're trying to bring about change in any organization and you go in and try to force something on them, you know what's going to happen to the organization? It's going to break.
Well, that is new wine in old wineskin, and
right.
It's going to explode.
So therefore, a wise man said to me, if you want to bring about change.
Are there no wise women who speak to you?
I'm just reflecting on because I interrogate with men with
I'm
men some of
teasing
the
you.
time.
So the producer is claiming the words of the wise man, and I'm dying with laughter.
No, but
All
in
right, tell
terms
me
of
what the wise man said. I'm just
no, there have been
messing with
some
you.
wise women in my life. My mom is one, and there are some people that I've interacted with. There's a lady.
But you don't quote them. That's all I'm saying.
No, but this quote that I'm about to make, it was I'm just reflecting on it,
Yeah.
and it was actually a female who said it to me. She said, "Percival."
Ah, you see, Percy, I am prophetic. I am apostolic.
But you are a prophetess. No, remember you get the role that name
Yeah,
there
that's
already.
true.
Yesterday, I had the man call
Yesterday,
you out.
I tell you, man, he could not remember my actual name,
called you
but he
prophetess.
was giving me a title.
You were a
Oh
prophetess,
Lord, may I
yeah.
live to.
And it's interesting.
Moses did say he wished that everybody
But
would prophesy.
but it is.
So no, but anyway, I was just motivated to ask you if,
but it's
if
true.
there are no wise women who speak. So a wise woman said to you, carry
that
on.
if you're seeking to bring about change within an organization, and you're trying to impose something on them without building a consensus, and you're forcing yourself on them, you are going to get so much resistance that pretty soon you'll be out of that
You will be out of
that
absolutely.
organization.
Yes. And it is not to say that a leader just sits and wait for the
No,
troops
man, him say
to
you are
give him
part
an
of the
idea.
process. No.
A leader must have the
And
ability
you're
to pull
gentling
the
it.
best from his people
You're gentling
or
it.
her people. And when you get to the point where you're trying to introduce new wine,
Yeah.
at
You're
least you
gentling.
know
Yeah.
how to pour it,
Yeah.
and you would have prepared the skins to receive it. Now, we are going to have a guest join us in a short while, Sizzla Kalonji. And of course, I had to go do some research what the name means, because those words cannot be just accidental. And given the man's artistry, it is not possible that he would have just chosen two random words.
No. You see,
So-
because he comes out of the African context, and if you go to Africa, your name must mean something.
Names have meaning.
And
So-
significantly, and I think a lot of us have adopted that. Even I tell you all the time, I've named my children, and I see it being manifested in terms of how they are and what destiny they're walking into in terms of purpose. So it is so important. This is a thing I just send to parents who are out there seeking for a name. You just give the picnic a name. Don't just give the child a name. Give the child a name that is prophetic in terms of their destiny.
Their destiny and
you
their
see that happen.
purpose.
So like your son named Daniel.
Daniel.
You know what that means? So like whatever Daniel in my life means something.
Yes.
Means something.
So what do you think, Mr. Miguel Orlando Collins, who is known to the world, his stage name is Sizzla Kalonji. What do you think it means?
When I hear Sizzla, I think of something burning.
Are
Something
you copying
bur-
from my notes? Let me hide it.
I hear something burning.
Well, a sizzle.
The Kalonji, I don't know. It sounds very African in terms of what it means.
So the sizzler is burning essence,
Mm-hmm.
and Kalonji is victorious. So, we're gonna have the burning, spicy, inspirational. The essence of a thing is its very heart, soul, character. We're gonna have a visit from the sizzler himself, and Kalonji means victorious, because who has not overcome?
The burning essence of victory.
Yes, who has not overcome? But he's an overcomer himself. When you look a little bit at his career, he is by far one of the most commercially and critically successful contemporary reggae artists, and is noted for the high number of solo albums. Since 2018, he has released 56
What?
solo albums. 56
2018?
solo albums, yes. But my great interest in him and why he's joining us this morning is really not because of his artistry in music. And it's why I made the point that that same wellspring of talent that gives us great athletes also lays the foundation for greatness in every other area. I mean, I when I visited Judgment Yard and spoke with him and got an understanding of what he's doing in terms of the politics of his people, in terms of the community leadership that he offers, and even for his maintaining a home in Augustown, when the tradition is for persons to do well and to move out. but he's become, I would say, the essence of the community into
terms
which
of peace
he
and
was
love,
born. Yes,
unity.
the restorative justice initiative that really has come out of his work in the community. Not just him alone, because we
Lot of
know
people,
that
first.
a lot of people
Have
work
to
to
buy
make
into
things
that
happen.
concept, yeah.
But as you said, great leadership will produce great results, and so we can't deny his role in accomplishing that. What is especially compelling to me is that when you take Sizzler and you look at him, he reminded me somewhat of the producer's big son, of fairly slight stature.
I one son him have.
Two.
A two son, no big son, a true.
He has one big son.
I one
Mind
little
you.
son. But the little son is not a
Little
little
son
man
is
at
not-
all. He's
no.
a big, he's
And
a
so-
giant of a young man.
And therein lies my point. A person's stature and appearance has no connection to the greatness that is within them. I tell you, when I entered Judgment Yard, I wasn't sure who Sizzler was, because you see the pictures and you know the
Think
artist,
of a very tall
and you
brethren.
see the person on stage. But when you see them, standing around, I very quickly knew who he was by the commanding and authoritative way in which he took charge of the process and the conversations and how he led his people and so on. There's greatness in that man. And
Do you
will-
ask him
will see.
why it is called Judgment Yard?
It's a judgment.
That's why I did say.
No, when he comes here, you can have him
I said,
explain
why
it.
you call it?
No,
I know
didn't-
about Judgment Yard long time, you know.
I didn't ask him why it's called Judgment Yard.
I think it's a place where the persons in the area, I think they have given it the name Judgment Yard.
Yes.
I'd
All right.
curious to find out.
I want to hear I want to hear the story of it, but I don't want to hear it by myself. We can all hear it together. But when we say judgment, the thing about it is, when we talk about judgment in ordinary speech, we tend to focus on the punitive, what do you call it now, executive. We think of it in a way that involves more of the austere side of it than just its ordinary meaning of exercising discretion and discernment and being able to interact with others in a way that does not condemn or ostracize or marginalize. Every day we make a judgment. I look at the beautiful young lady standing across from me, and I'm making judgments about various things.
And I was about to make that point, that in
Yes.
terms of what judgment means. Some people think of, you've done something wrong and you're gonna get punishment, but you make judgments every day based on information that you have.
And what
that
you
you've
observe.
Yeah.
And basically,
And good judgment is what makes you be blessed and to prosper, because you're exercising good judgment in the things that you do.
When we were kids, there was a category of garments known as your judging clothes.
Yes, I remember those. You and your mother would say to you, go put on your judging clothes. You come from church, you cannot play in your church clothes. Go put on your judging clothes.
All right, so because I am a bit of a wordsmith, I had to figure that one out. So that judging is from the word drudge. It's your drudgery clothes.
Yes,
the
work clothes.
Work clothes that you do. But
we had as
but it
kids
just came to mind.
yeah, we just as kids growing up, it was our judging
Your
clothes.
judging
But really,
clothes.
the English said it was your drudging clothes. But as Jamaicans, man.
Nobody have drudgery
Judging
clothes.
No, we not
Put
taking
on your
that on.
drudgery clothes.
No,
It was your judging clothes. But it had me thinking, as a child, that in the ordinary, everyday cut and thrust of life, you're judging. But it's true. You're very judgmental. Yeah, you're judging. When I was learning to drive, I remember my driving instructor used to use the word judgment when he was referring to making an assessment of the right distance that should be between the wheel of the car and the curb.
Yeah.
And in driving, the word judgment would always be in
You
my
have to
mind,
exercise good judgment,
because you have to exercise good judgment. What is
Every
the correct
crash.
stopping distance? Are you traveling too close?
Fast. Can you turn? You coming
can
out,
you
you see cars
turn?
coming down the road. Can my judgment?
Absolutely.
So all of those things are related
In my
to
early,
judgment.
yeah, in my early days of driving, I had poor judgment as the
So
bumper
many-
of my car. No,
Many mishaps.
there were many, not with
Scratches.
other people's vehicles. The gate post never stayed in the same place. And the palm tree, even when I lived in the BVI, and you're parking like in an open area and there's a palm tree, somehow your bumper would brush the palm tree. My judgment was poor when it comes to
Has
it.
it
It's
gotten
usually
better?
reversing. Oh, it has matured considerably.
But you still a brush the palm
Yeah.
tree.
No. Can't
And a
afford
crash-
to do that
and
now.
Not
Your
touching
judgment,
it.
can I tell you? Your judgment improves when you have a stern eye on cost and consequence,
Okay.
which is a reality.
But you know, as you get older in terms of those things, your judgment can become impaired.
You mean as a like a disability, the emerging disability
Yeah.
among old people?
Yeah.
You don't hear as well. You know, it's one of the things that make me chuckle, that a lot of us who are so insensitive to the needs of the disabled
Older people.
don't realize that age is a disability.
Yeah.
And you will get to the point where you can't move as fast, you can't move as you feel like, you can't see, you can't hear, your hands fail you, your body gets weaker, and you are now suffering under a disability. I just think that the way God has organized things is just marvelous, because if you live with compassion for others during your years
It
of
comes
strength,
back at you.
it will come back to you. And
Aye.
you see a lot of people, you know, not being well treated at a certain time in their life, and I just cast my mind and imagine, I wonder why.
Or it was judgment.
All right, so
As we
we'll
go to the
discover the
break.
story of Judgment Yard. Is break time already? I don't think so. I think would you like a break?
Yes, I'd like a break.
You can have a break.
I can have a break.
You don't have
I
to
notice the
manufacture
ladies don't bring our
breaks.
water. Come give us.
Oh, I think the standards are falling. The standards are not
Catherine.
falling. They're as high as ever.
Yeah, Catherine.
All right. As soon as we catch sight of a service person,
Yeah.
we'll be here.
I discovered something this morning
What was that?
about JD's pub. I thought they started from about 6:30. Only discovered that they open at 7 or
7,
o'clock.
yes.
So if you want an early breakfast, you're going on a move.
This is not the place
this is
you're
not the-
saying?
you come to 7 o'clock. No, 7 o'clock they open if you want to have breakfast. Yeah. But let me just put a disclaimer to that. The
What is
food
your
is
disclaimer?
excellent.
That's not a disclaimer.
No disclaimer to what I just said, to say if you want something early in the morning, like
Yes.
you're going out of town and
Yes.
this wouldn't be the place for breakfast because they open at 7.
The
I just
kitchen.
discovered that this morning.
The kitchen, but they begin serving at 7.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
But JD's pub, the food good, man. So and we invite people to come on a Thursday morning to share with us in an open house. Come and experience the ambience of the club.
well, 1 or 2 persons have promised to drop by this morning.
Okay.
Because we are celebrating with the Rastafarian community. I think Bobo Greg, Prophet Greg.
Oh,
is
I've
gonna
heard so
pass
much, but I've
by.
never met
You've
him.
not met him?
Never
All right,
met him.
well,
Probably
he's
I met
gonna
him in
pass
my
by.
past life.
Well, when you see him, you'll remember.
As Bongo Percy.
And I think there was one other caller who said he might pass by. But suffice it to say, it's gonna be an interesting morning.
It's
As
going to
we-
be interesting.
yeah.
Another thing I discovered, that there's no Congo Lowell. Yeah, Bongo Percy have Congo Lowell.
Oh, he's been what? I'm not sure what it means, but my niece. I see. So it's twinsies. My niece has anointed the producer as Congo Lowell, but there's Congo Billy, and I think maybe that's why, because Lowell and his brother
Are twins?
they look alike. They're not twins, but
So one look
Lowell
more
is
handsome than the other one.
Lowell is his mother's gift to Billy, who Congo Billy wanted a brother,
Okay.
and his mommy said, "Sure, here's one."
I said go.
And
So you're a
and
gift
so-
to the world,
so
brother Lowell.
He's a gift to Congo Billy.
Okay.
For sure.
Interesting.
And Congo Billy shares him. So, for example, when I said, "Lord, may I have?" He says, "Sure, here's one."
Okay. All right. No, I understand.
Well, you know that in my church, this is what is frequently said by my own spiritual father. When you pray, God sends a man. Not in exactly that
You're a woman.
way. Well, God's gift to the world. Even Jesus, when he was leaving and he was establishing the different offices, and the Apostle Paul explained it as a gift, the gift to the church. To,
Yeah, the 5 The fivefold
the
ministry.
fivefold ministries.
Yeah, for
But they are
Ephesians
occupied
4.
by people.
Yeah.
And so the people become the gift
To
of
the
service
to the people.
right. In my estimation, I'm gonna say young man because I see here that he was born in the 70s.
He's a young man.
So he's a young man to us.
Like us.
Yeah. A little younger than us, but he's
You
a
are
young
tell
man to
people
us.
me he's a younger man like me. I don't know about you. He's a young man like me, so you can stay there.
I go with you, Pastor Percival, because
Yeah.
you're usually dragging us in the opposite
Yeah.
direction. So now that you're bringing us closer to the light, yeah, he's a gift. This young man, when I look at, what little I've seen so far, he is a gift. He's a gift to his community for sure, because he has sought to use his influence and his resources to create an anchor in his community. He's a gift to Jamaica because he has gone on a fairly wide international stage representing the music, the culture, the people. He's a gift to the larger Rastafarian community because he has made the investment in studying in the different houses. He has studied with the Bobo Shanti. He's from the Nyabingi house. And there was one more. What is the other one?
12 tribes.
She's not paying me any attention.
12 tribes.
12 tribes. He has also studied with 12 tribes. Just confirming what Pastor said. So in terms of his understanding of the different philosophies
and how they operate,
he has studied with all three, which is remarkable. Most people are not able to contain that kind of diversity in their wineskins. I love the wineskin analogy, by the way, as you can tell. And I believe that he's a gift to the world because if he continues on this path of promoting change and putting himself in a position of leadership to incite change, then the world will be the better for it. I've been thinking a lot about the conversation to come, and I'm warming up the minds of those who are listening to be ready to receive it in a particular context. And here's what's been in my mind. When God wanted to have an example, he chose a tribe. Well, first he chose one man, Abraham, and then out of Abraham, he created a tribe, which he chose and used as a model to display
what he should represent.
Absolutely, to display his relationship with humanity and to be sort of like the historians, the record bearers of all of this coming down the line to us. So it is, I would say, well done, producer. Just saw him leaping over the balustrade like a man in his teens.
I'm feeling age, man.
Sorry you couldn't all see it. But so God chose one, always moving from one to the many.
Always a pattern.
That's the pattern. Similarly to Christ came, one man, to be a sacrifice that could open a door for many to find a way to reconciliation. And as we come down now to Jamaica, we see where at a time when there was so much trauma coming out of slavery, one man got a particular vision that led to the creation of a little tribe, and they have remained a small tribe. I was reading in Deuteronomy today where the Lord said to Moses, was saying, God didn't choose you because you were a big tribe. In fact, you were a small tribe, but he chose you. Similarly, the Rastafarian as an indigenous group in Jamaica continues to be a small tribe. But when we come back, we want to look at Little But with Talawa. Small tribe, big impact.
You said something, and it just speaks as we go into the break. You said houses. No, they don't call it houses.
Mansions.
They are mansions. That is what they think. I go to prepare a place for you because in my father's house are many
mansions. But it tell you the house bigger than the mansion.
That's what, the house bigger than the mansion. The mansion is huge. I think of a house as a small mansion.
If there are many mansions in one house, then the house is bigger. Let's take our break. Good morning and welcome back to the Morning Connection. Excitement in the house now because our first guests have arrived and we're getting ready to bring them on camera with me. But in the meantime, let me just remind you, this month we are celebrating all things Rastafarian. And before we took the break, I was speaking about the pattern that we see laid down in scripture, but also just the order of things as we understand the interaction between our divine creator and mankind, his created family. Always he chose one. He chose Abraham, and out of Abraham he pulled a tribe who have been the standard bearers. When we come now to look at our situation in Jamaica, in the trauma and the aftermath of slavery, there emerged a group, a small tribe, the Rastafarians. And what has been unique and special about them is that they, unlike many others, understood that when slavery, they were sort of, I would say, they were the Daniel of Jamaica. Daniel, whilst in Babylon, did the research and understood that there was a time at which the captivity, exile in Babylon would come to an end and the people would be returned home. Now, whether all went or only some is immaterial, but when the time ends, there are some specific consequences. This effort that you see for repatriation, for reparations, even for restorative justice, has its place in that understanding and that principle. Our Rastafarian brothers have, from the outset, carried a torch for the homeland, for a return to our true point of origin, meaning those who were taken from Africa and brought to the Caribbean region, brought to Jamaica as slaves, have a point of origin. I tell you, they are coming in, and even I feel excited, even though I know who they are. Sister Maxine, welcome, welcome, welcome. Please take your place. All right, so I have to be like one of those commentators who say, now entering the stage, Sister Maxine Stowe, who has like, good morning to you, sir. It is such a pleasure to have you with us here. The sizzler himself. We'll have to make sure the microphone. And good morning. Are we being joined by the musician? You know, it is a tradition that when the king enters the court, the musicians must come. The priest must come. Where is the priest? Are you wearing two hats this morning? Two turbans? Yes. Okay. All right. Maybe I should move this microphone over so that there's no need to. Might have to do a change. All right. While we get the audio set up, I will just continue to let you know that in the house now, and we'll hear their voices shortly. We have with us, I've been promising you from earlier in the week, that as we celebrate all things Rastafarian this month, we would have with us notable members of the community. And I think it is a fitting start to the season that we have both Miss Maxine Stowe and we have with us, I'm going to use both names, Mr. Miguel Orlando Collins, but officially and spiritually recognized as Sizzla Kalonji. I hope I got the pronunciation right. I've been practicing.
Perfectly so.
All right. He said perfectly so. We have to get the microphone. Would you take the microphone in your hand when you're ready? Or Maxine, we can start by just welcoming you back to the show.
Yeah, blessed morning to Morning Connection.
Yes.
Connecting with your lovely and edified audience, because you've been fertilizing them for quite a few months.
We've been preparing the
You've
field.
been preparing
that is
them
true.
for such a reason as this, I'm happy to have the station and your program as a media partner for the month, and just looking forward to the revelations that should, emerge this morning.
Can I tell you, yesterday at some point in the mid-morning-ish, Mr. Shaw said to me, we need to promote this all day. So we went even deeper with the promotion because I think somewhere there was just the growing understanding that these conversations are important. They're important not just for the Rastafarian community, but they're important for Jamaica at large. You and I are in agreement that the role which the Rastafarians have played in Jamaica and for Africans everywhere is a critical one, and the awareness keeps expanding.
Yes.
You see more and more persons first recognizing that the freedom of expression is tied up with your very existence and your cultural artifacts. You are entitled to ownership of it, participation in the economics of it, and it's a gift to the world. So now we see everyone acknowledging that what Rasta has created, the music that has come out of it, really are to be recognized at the highest levels as a gift to the world. How do you feel as a gift to the world?
Well, we're approaching 100 years, 1930 to 2030, and that globally 2030 is a major year about achieving sustainable goals. So we're 2022?
Mm-hmm. 8
So we're
years to
just
go.
8 years to
8
go.
years to
So,
go. And 8 is the number of new beginnings.
well,
So
we're
this is
here.
a fortuitous time. I'm going to ask you to just introduce our special guest in his true character, both spiritually and politically. I mean, he's so well known as an artist that goes without saying. But I'd like you to do the introduction before he gets to just, greet us. I'm sure he has something planned as a greeting.
Yes, well, he sits in the office of the indigenous Rastafari president. He was given that role by the Nyabingi Ancient Council, who saw in him the characteristics to carry their guidance. As you know, they are the custodians of the community, and they saw within him the characteristics that they could rely on. And as you know, our Rastafari reggae artists are the missionaries who established the faith outside of the Grow Nation and the Nyabingi, gatherings, establish it to the nation and to the world. And at this stage, being the parties who have, grown up with the faith and this whole establishment, it makes sense to me that they would also be recognized in the administration, because they are the ones that are out there,
Yes.
the pathways.
They would be the apostles,
They
if
would
one
be the
would, in the Christian language, so to speak. They are
Right.
out there.
And also, most likely, the ambassadors and the negotiators. Yeah, especially with the economics, having been driven by their contracts
their output,
and their output,
because they are creating, and they're the ones creating the wealth and controlling the wealth in some instances.
Through their contractual with these third parties, and they themselves may not be in the best contractual
True.
relationship, and that's where I think everything has merged now, where we need their service, not simply as missionaries, but as business people, administrators, and ambassadors. So,
All right. I just want to welcome back to the set Pastor Percival. Pastor Percival is doing double duty this morning. He's host and he's chauffeur and he's daddy. It's not even double duty, it's triple duty. So he just dropped his children off. And he's back. Pastor Percival. Our very special guest has been royally introduced by Maxine, our sister Maxine, who is now family to us. So she has done the honors of introducing our guest. And may I just emphasize for you that this morning he's with us in his capacity as president in the office of the Indigenous Peoples of Jamaica, really.
Yes.
It is not just the Rastafarian community, because other groups have been recognized as being indigenous.
yeah, and it's by blood as well as by culture, because all of us have family members, or we're in the bloodline of all
Yes.
these indigenous groups. So even when we use the word indigenous is not outside of our actual self. It becomes one group.
It becomes one group. So it's by blood and election.
By
so to
blood
speak.
and election and selection.
And selection. All right. The president is about to just greet us. Greetings to you.
Greetings to each and everyone in the name of the Most High, His Imperial Majesty, Emperor the King Selassie Jah, Rastafari. Pleasant morning, and I'm honored being here on this program. Bless you.
I thank you so much.
Morning, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Good. We in preparation for you coming. We were talking about Judgment Yard, and I was wondering, how did it get its name? Because we're talking about judging and what that means.
Well, I can see, you're a sagacious judge of a character. And the Judgment Yard was named based upon Psalms 9.
Okay.
Where it says, His Majesty will establish a throne of judgment to judge His people. And I said, if it is throne of judgment, this is the yard, Judgment Yard.
Okay. All right.
Based
So
on
we
Psalms
don't
9.
get it now, because you know that his throne is built upon righteousness and justice.
Exactly.
Psalms 89.
Rastafari.
And truth and mercy is part of his throne.
Exactly.
All right then.
So I had one visit to Judgment Yard, and the only thing I didn't see being done is judging. And I make that comment because we've always talked about justice as being not the narrow business of resolving disputes, but justice in the true sense, involving how we relate to one another, dealing righteously and fairly with one another. So my one visit to Judgment Yard exposed me to a number of elements that I want to pull on with you. I saw people being fed. I myself was royally fed. I
You get
left
some
with
good
fruits.
stew and stuff.
I'm not telling you what I got. When you go,
It's some serious.
because
Ital
Pastor
stew.
will
You know, I
arrive
grew up
and
on that
ask
in-
for what I got. So
No, sir.
he
No,
needs
sir.
to get
I am
his
not.
own.
No. I am not. Envious or anything. I just
Oh, no,
wondered
not
what you have
envious.
in terms of the stew, because in terms of history, my
Don't
my
follow
brother
me
is
here.
though deceased.
I
was
beg
a
you, Mr.
Rastafari.
President, don't follow him down that rabbit hole.
So in the earlier days, talking about in the 70s and the 80s, him on the back was every day, the different things, and it was good food.
Up until
Ital
this time.
stew, yeah, man, it
Yes.
is. So I know. That's why I asked her what she got when she said she was royally fed.
My lips are sealed.
All right, I leave that up to you. So I go eat off my own provision.
Absolutely. You need to go and be fed.
Yeah.
But that's what I saw. I saw community. I saw fellowship.
Yes.
And we had a brief conversation about restorative justice. So I know there's justice in Judgment Yard, but I want to focus your attention on how it is that you, in your office of president, seeks to impact community life.
Thank you very much. A very beautiful question. Well, first, before I go any further, it is a part of our culture. It is of paramount importance to say a word of prayer to the Most High and give thanks unto the Supreme. So first I'll say, blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the ways of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight shall be in the Lord the Almighty, and on his laws he shall meditate day and night. He shall be as a tree planted by the rivers of water, which bringeth forth its fruits in due seasons. His leaves also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. The wicked are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind driveth away. Therefore the wicked shall not stand in the presence of Rastafari, neither sinners in the congregation of the righteous. Rastafari know the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked man shall perish, said the Most High Jah, Rastafari. Peace, love, and blessing, and greetings once again. Now, the way about uniting the people through the office of the presidency, the indigenous office given by the ancient council of the Naibigatir Krasirene. First, I'll start with community service. And community service is of paramount importance because this is the order of the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah representing its people in the diaspora worldwide, based upon the fact that they're still in the manner of being in the servitude realms. So therefore we start with the community. And being someone who are intimately involved in discussions, in matters, in activities in the community, it's like hands on the handle, boots on the ground. You're collecting the report from the people, You're there with the people, seeing the people, knowing the people's needs and all their welfare and well-being. You share all those stuff, their emotions, their feeling towards the oppressed system. You're there with them. So we start with the community, with the people. Starting with the people, you can then teach the people of His Majesty. You can then teach the people of their ancient ways, being taught to us by our elders through the foundation such as the Nyabingi Theocracy Reign, through the Haile Selassie Rastafari Royal Ethiopian Judah Catholic Church, 11 Welcome Avenue, Kingston 11, and through the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress, True Divine Church of Salvation. They're all foundations being laid there and left for us to simply follow the pathway. And we'll start with ourselves on the third matter. You have to be someone of good and strict self-discipline, high degree of love to deal with the people, because they're being oppressed every day. And you, as a present leader for the people, you need to be in the humblest state as for you to relate with the people to know the way forward. Rastafari.
I hear that and I understand it, and I'm hearing a pattern of service.
Yes, exactly.
A pattern of service which is represented in terms of when Jesus came, He said, I don't come to deal with those who don't save already. I come to deal with those who need salvation and need to be broken about. So you're following a pattern. There's a pattern that you're following in terms of what I call service, because in order to lead people, you have to serve them first.
Exactly, and that pattern can be described as the Rastafari family would say, to fulfill the creed. And to fulfill the creed is the hungry be fed, the naked be clothed, the sick be nourished, the aged protected, and the infants be cared for. And fulfilling the creed, it's the given duty of the Most High from the household of the parents.
True.
Because these are duties for the mother and the father. Therefore, these are duties being handed down from their ancestors. Parents must be from the throne. So, hence, the first thing is to fulfill the creed. And in doing so, we share that hospitable frequency between each and every one, because it's one human family. And we all need to be caring for each other.
True. That's so true. So when what you're saying is that if people seek to divide based on race or ethnicity is wrong, because it's one human family, and that is how it was created.
Exactly.
Okay.
So division will only plunge us into damnation. But when we're united, we're much stronger. And as it says in the Rastafari family, one for all for one. His Majesty is the great and ever-living King, the umbrella which we all find ourselves beneath, following the precepts and principle of Rastafari.
Okay.
All right. I want to switch to politics.
Okay.
And politics, because the office of the presidency, while there are spiritual elements to it, in the most part, it's a political office, would you say?
Yes, certainly.
All right. And I do understand that the foundation of community life is service.
Yes.
But I'm curious as to your perspective on what the politics of the office involve and the style of politics that you would practice.
Concerning political references, we've been taught from the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress, the True Divine Church of Salvation, which is where the founder president, God and King Prince Emmanuel, have set the foundation based upon his knowledge and the best way forward. And it says, we the people above all things stand governmentally, statically, sabbatically, and churchically. Concerning politics, we'll follow the pattern of the theocracy reign government, which is still in line with the constitution of His Majesty, Ethiopia, in reference to Rastafari, and also the constitution of all the mansions concerning the Bobo Shanti mansion and the constitution of the theocracy reign mansion. Our divine realm is that concerning politics, our titular head of state is His Majesty. We do not follow the colonial British monarch. So all our principles will be based upon principles being set and laid down by the church and the throne room of His Majesty. wherein the island of Jamaica has been revealed to possess a population majority of approximately 96.4% Ethiopian African descent, and whereas the presence of people of Ethiopian African descent in Jamaica, other former British colonial territories, in the direct historical consequence of the African slave trade, the foundation of which was laid by Elizabeth I of Tudor, Queen Elizabeth of England, with the granting of a British Royal Charter and a ship named SS Jesus of Lubeck to the renowned British patriarch and celebrated English pirate Sir John Hawkins, who initiated the trade in human cargo with the capture of 300 Africans from the coast of Ghana in 1565. And whereas the African slave trade has been designated the burden of Western civilization for more than 200 years, whereas 450 years of racial commercial bondage and Western colonial exile under authority of the same British Royal Charter has since elapsed, with no current historical evidence of demonstrate to such burden to Western civilization has ever been lifted, seeing that the British throne and Parliament has been morally negligent in failing to grant a repatriation act to return descendants of emancipated Ethiopian African people to their ancestral border, on the principled decision taken to dismantle the vast British slave empire with the signing of an Emancipation Act in 1834. So
Right.
with the Bobo Shanti Foundation, their parliament structure set, and with the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress, along with the Naibing Theocracy, they are structures set for us to be in that manner to do the political sense of
All
the
right.
Set
people.
up your own kingdom.
All right,
And
thank you very much.
so
We're going to
the-
take a
the
7
break. Yeah.
Yes, we'll take a station break at this point, and then when we return, we're going to look at how, well, as we march towards constitutional reform in Jamaica, how we will seek now to exert some influence on the process so that the 95% Africans in Jamaica can see themselves represented in what's to come.
Exactly.
So
Thank you.
please stay with us. We'll be right back. Our guest in the house is the president himself, Sizzla Kalonji, accompanied by Miss Maxine Stowe, who is family to you already, and Pastor Percival and myself are guiding you through the morning. This is the Morning Connection. We'll be right back.
Both Leonard Howell, Marcus Garvey, and His Imperial Majesty were born in the 1890s. This is right after the carving up of Africa, because once we were emancipated as a people, then the great colonial powers sat down in Berlin
And had a
divided
conference and decided who would get where and who would have.
in the African continent. So even us, in our right to return, it was abrogated, because the place that we were to return to as a freed people was immediately
It was
carved
divided up. Yeah,
you
they
know,
said.
and the only state
That was
that
Ethiopia.
was Ethiopia
yeah.
again, which is significant to our history, and it's also significant to the role and the political, if you want to say, development of His Imperial Majesty. So Howell, all of them are contemporaries of each other, dealing with being born for emancipation and being born to defend Africa.
So I'm seeing three strands or three streams of activity running concurrently, and they seem to have merged in the office of the president. I'm seeing Marcus Garvey being very political and focused on both the economics and the politics, ownership of your destiny. I'm seeing His Imperial Majesty looking at the divine order of things, and we talk about the theocratic reign. I'm seeing that superstructure sitting above it, and I'm seeing Leonard Howell focusing on the spiritual, because man was born free, was meant to be free, and those three strands have come down, and they are now sort of focused in the energies of the president, the Sizzler, the victorious Kalonji. See,
And all of them
I
were
studied a little
yeah.
bit there.
And as you described, all of them were interested in the economics, because they all know that, you know, political freedom without economics,
Without means is empty.
Is empty.
Faith without
Faith-
works
Right.
is dead.
But I think it's significant that they all three were are contemporaries.
Our contemporaries, yes.
You know, coming out of the universe, and did carry and merge, and were, you know, peers almost on a level of this experience that we are now grounded in. So leading up to 1961, 1958 was a very important ground nation in Victoria Park, now William Grant Park, where the Rastafari community, one of the leaders being King Emmanuel, was making provisions for this negotiation that was going on about the independent Jamaica, or the Federation. Or whatever, that in that negotiation, as would be now, that the rights of the African within the right of return would be incorporated in the Constitution. And so those discussions with Norman Manley and M.G. Smith and
Bustamante.
No, he wasn't in it, actually. It was really Manley and
as
M.G.
premier.
Smith, you know. They created this opportunity and recognized the right of the African to determine their destiny. And that is where the mission to Africa came, where they set up this mission to go to 5 African states to negotiate what would be the basis of such a return. And that trip occurred, and it bore fruit, but then Norman Manley lost the election, and Bustamante took a...
So the politics intervened.
The politics intervened.
And the ground shifted.
Right, and it is at that stage also that His Imperial Majesty had requested of Jamaica to become a founding member of the Organization of African Unity, because it was formed in 1963. So he was recognizing that a lot of the nations in the Commonwealth were gaining, were in this mode of gaining independence.
Or being cut free by the Queen.
And recognized Jamaica.
Some of them had to fight.
Yeah,
yes.
And recognized Jamaica as being an important state, right? And so, a lot of... I'm just setting the stage for the president.
I think he's preparing himself to take the horn.
Where we are now,
Yeah.
as you know, last couple of weeks, the vestiges of the Queen were here.
Her descendants. Her descendants.
Oh, wow.
Her descendants.
Her descendants were
And
here.
in the region.
And we've seen some interesting things happening in the aftermath that I want us to talk about, so let me plant the seed. The Commonwealth and this bid by Jamaica, at the point as we are seeking to distance ourselves from the Queen, this bid by Jamaica to take leadership, to be the Secretary General of the Commonwealth. Jamaica has put forward a candidate, and that is a matter to be discussed. What is the relevance of the Commonwealth? This collection of, yesterday I was calling them a survivors club. This 54 countries that have continued in some relationship. It's like hostages keeping in touch with each other after they've been set free. What is the value of it in today's thinking? Mr. President, it is your time. But may I ask you to emphasize as you speak to us, just to emphasize how you see this merger of politics, economics, and spirituality being reflected in the next round of negotiations, because we are moving to constitutional reform by fire or by force. It is happening, so we need to be prepared.
Thank you very much. Well, as I've said, the foundations are being laid by our ancestors. We are just aligning ourselves to follow through. And I like to just make mention of a few directives from the Nyabingi and from the Bobo Shanti, and also the Judah Coptic, wherein which I've now amalgamated all these principles and all these constitutions in one to best serve the public of black people. First, I'd like to start with the Bobo Shanti, as where you say we're going through the spiritual aspect and the political aspect. Now, the membership, the Bobo Shanti, all who desire to become members of the association must abide by the following principles. And without the principles, we'll be in darkness. That they recognize His Majesty, Haile King Selassie, and the Most Right King Emmanuel for the foundation of the Bobo Shanti, who is Melchizedek High Priest of Salem, that they abide by the rules of the Sabbath and the Nyabingi as stated or aforesaid. That in addition, they must attend the Sabbath services unless they are ill, and the Nyabingi services also. That in addition and specifically they must dress in a dignified manner when attending church services, and the brethren are to be attired in a robe and turban, and sisters are to cover their heads with a fall and wear robes that cover their ankles. That members are not allowed to carry any weapons of violence. That all members must live in peace and love with each other. That no member is allowed to participate in politics. Yet we the people above all organizations stand politically. Okay, that all members must work voluntarily for their association, that the transgression of lying, defaming, tale-bearing, and stealing are strictly prohibited, that all members must show respect to the banner of their association, that all members must work in unity, loyalty, and cooperation with each other in order to make the motherland of Africa free and to bring forth freedom, redemption, international repatriation for Africans in the diaspora. Now, in saying that, in maintaining that for the foundation of the EABIC, there's a parliament concerning the governance, and that parliament of the association shall consist of 33 members. That's the principle being laid down by Bobo Shanti Prince Emmanuel, that the parliament shall be the governing body of the association. In saying that, to say this, also with the Haile Selassie Rastafari Royal Ethiopian Judah Coptic Church, they have laid the foundation from that mansion concerning the Ethiopian Alternative Union Policy, wherein which there should have been a bill passed for such. It was neglected and ushered out based on the fact that we were using marijuana. So known to the fact that the marijuana in this time is not with that realms of
has been decriminalized.
Thank you very much. We are here to push forward with all these principles, guidelines towards the redemption of Ethiopia, Africa. Whereas the people's human rights referendum is urgently warranted today to establish the indigenous sovereignty of the people in Jamaica with religious and cultural autonomy. By definition, a republic is a form of government system which recognizes the supreme authority in the voice of the people in collective security. So Jamaican politicians cannot bring forth any referendum to dispose or remove the absentee British monarchy. Hence, due to the fact that the Jesuit-taught politicians are paid political puppets, actors, and agents employed to uphold the Jesuit status quo set here, they neither have the moral capacity nor intellectual ability to fulfill the UN Treaty obligations as witnessed after 59 years of maladministration and negligence. Therefore, by choosing to abolish the Jamaican Constitution unanimously will stand as an expression of the will of the people to dismiss the Privy Council, Jamaica's Prime Minister democratically, while removing the absentee British Queen as head of state and shutting down the Jesuit-influenced institution of Parliament simultaneously. This people human right referendum shall serve as lawful constructive notice to dissolve the office of the Queen's, the Governor General representative immediately, so that we the people can lawfully inherit the island of Jamaica as private indigenous territory under Article 21.3 of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights Charter, and lawfully install a new debt-free constitutional republic form of democratic government in human rights solidarity with the first president of the new debt-free Republic of Jamaica officially. Since 63% of the voting population have no confidence in the political leadership of Jesuit-taught politicians, then we must endeavor to secure and protect our own indigenous interest. With human rights decision as unlawful taxation without human rights representation is a fundamental basis for international political transformation.
All right. Okay. So you've said a lot of things there, and I'm gonna pull out a few strands just for discussion. The first thing, and I love it, I know Pastor Percival and I would be in agreement with this. The first thing is recognizing that the spirituality of the people, the freedom to practice your religion, is an important and a necessary foundation for society. You've started with the Bobo Shanti and their commitment to observance of the Sabbath, good moral conduct, and so on. Percival, what's your vote?
Vote?
Yes.
I wouldn't say vote. I'm listening, but I find it so instructive that the first document that Sizzler Kolanji referred to, you could have taken that out of a Seventh-day Adventist church in terms of what has happened in terms of
Well, Seventh-day Adventist because it says Sabbath. But
and even
outside
some
of that,
the
really,
principle,
any
principle,
church
yeah,
that
in
is
regards to it.
focused
So you're
on
saying,
God,
so what
puts
you're
God
saying
at the center of the
what is happening.
society.
So what you're saying is that fear of God, the Almighty, is important in terms of anything that flows, whether it be political or economic.
Everything.
Or absolutely.
And ecclesiastically, that's where we choose our Godhead. Per to say, we'll remove the Queen as our Godhead and serve our indigenous Godhead, because based upon our principles and guidelines, and even so from the Bible, Israel King is Israel's God. And all our prophecies and all our cultures concerning welfare, well-being, the way we eat, drink, came out of
Deuteronomy
the Almighty.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Bible itself refers to Ethiopia. And the
All
king
the
of
time.
Ethiopia is His Majesty, and he had visited
So I was
Jamaica
coming to that
on
now.
this month, the 21st of this month. So
Yes.
everything is part and parcel. So the disciplinary action and principles of the Ethiopia Africa Bloc International Congress, and also of the Nyabingi Theocracy reigned, and also of the Haile Selassie Haile Rastafari Royal Ethiopian Judah Catholic Church, it's part and parcel of the duties should be kept by us, the 94% African descent in Jamaica, in order to remove the British colonial who have had the children of Africa in their territories of slavery.
So I want to sort of put an emphasis on that now, because in the negotiations to come, we already know that majority of Jamaicans are saying we've had enough of the Queen as our head of state. You're making it clear that given our history and who we are in terms of our identity, when we remove the Queen, Jamaicans should be considering replacing the Queen with his
Crown head.
emperor, the crown head,
His Majesty.
His Majesty. And the case that you are laying out for that has everything to do with our point of origin, who we are in.
Exactly,
in-
because genealogically we're connected to His Majesty based upon the Kebranegas, and based upon the fact that the Roman Catholic had taken away children from Jerusalem, and we are very well of the knowledge that they are here in the Caribbean.
Yes. Yes.
So people from Jerusalem are here in the Caribbean, especially Jamaica. People from Africa, they are here in the Caribbean. You can, for evidence, you can check downtown. We're from a royal indigenous nation of kings and queens. In Jamaica, you have King Street, Queen Street, Princess
Yes.
Street, Prince Street, and
Yes.
for the likes.
There are
Therefore,
memories. We
are
have kept
the
it in our
bloodline
culture.
of the throne of King David. We are the bloodline of the Messiah. In the Latin language, Jesus Christ. In our language, Hebrew Israelite language, Yahshua Mashiach. So we need to stand and represent. So we're not disrespecting any office of the government in no sense. Far be it from me to speak bad about my people and their government, but we need to align ourselves with the Almighty, and based on the fact that we are the children of the transatlantic slave trade, and the British government need to pass the Repatriation Act to return the black sons and daughters to Africa, and with the same like the African government should be having dialogues with the government of the Western diaspora for the resettlement, the return and the resettlement of the
that
children.
brings me to the next topic for discussion. In 1962, 1958, coming up, Jamaica reached out to Africa through the mission and so on. And Africa responded warmly, but we have not had an explosion of great relationship in the intervening years. I'm asking you now, as president, as we create a platform to build that relationship going forward, are there any specific ambitions or strategies that you would propose to bring not just the Rastafarian community, but Jamaica as a whole into a deeper relationship with Africa? Because I think Africa is now in
Certainly.
a greater state of readiness.
Yes, based upon the Charter of the Human Rights Declaration, it very well stated in one of the articles where the state should provide finance for all these activities, and it should be championed by the Jamaican government because they are a member state of the United Nations, and you're a member state of the United Nations, you should also adhere to the principles of the indigenous People's Declaration. So there are set ways in getting all these things done concerning the referendum. So we need to have a courtesy call to the government of Jamaica, having them with the knowledge that we are now in the process of removing the Queen, and we the people will structure ourselves based upon the principles and the precept of the foundation, the grassroots, the indigenous foundation of Jamaica black people.
I love it. I want to hear your views on the continued relevance of the Commonwealth. Jamaica has put forward our own Minister of Foreign Affairs to be the Secretary General. Now, it could be that it is a very good strategy to take charge of those resources and to move it in a direction that meets the needs of our people. But it could also be just walking in the same vein of continuing to foster a relationship that has not worked to our greatest advantage. What do you think? Is the Commonwealth of Nations a relevant institution for Jamaica to participate in?
Well, it is always relevant to have,
Connections.
I would say yes, but properly grafted structure in uniting your kingdoms. And with no disrespect, I do think that the Commonwealth is just an extended arm based upon the stratagem of the government having us in slavery. Same as how you have the Commonwealth, that is how you have the Nyabingi theocracy reign. And that is how you have the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress, and that is how you have the Haile Selassie Rastafari Royal Ethiopian Judah Coptic Church, all foundation praising His Majesty as titular head of state and head of church. These foundations are set to collect the people and teach them the way forward, their African ways, their African spirituality. Yes, they say Rastafari is a movement, but it's a way of life. This is what life had taught us, as His Majesty said. So the Commonwealth is set to unite and keep a set of people with their realms to that elite status in that realms of servitude. Yes, all due respect, but we are here to receive the people, and it is now time for both the Commonwealth through the kingdom of the British monarch to hand over all black people to the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress, to the Haile Selassie Rastafari Ethiopian Judah Coptic Church, and the Nyabingi theocracy reign. We are here sitting and we are waiting with all due principles and precepts of the throne to teach the people the way forward. And it is for the Jamaica government to champion the cause of repatriation as the fact that they are a member state of the United Nations.
Very well said. And
just one
go
question.
ahead, Percy.
You speak about handing over, but we as a people can decide to move.
Oh, you read
Thank you
my
very much.
mind.
No, I'm just saying.
I
the-
tried,
Repatriation.
No,
You
because
read my
we
mind.
as because you see, an important part of what happens is one man said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. So if we decide to move and say we enough, and the people going one way, there's no way that you can hold the people back. So you begin with that. So if we decide to move, then the leaders who are not coming will have to follow. And one man said, you are leading if you are influencing people, but if people break the influence that you have over them and move, you're good. You're good.
Yes.
So when you say handover, I am just trying to understand. We're
There's
coming
some symbolism.
in
There's
terms
some
of
symbolism
that.
to
I'll
the
come up on the
language.
break.
Yeah, but if the producer would allow us, because we could wrap up this point and then there is some symbolism in the call to hand over.
Yes.
And I respect that. I think we must call on them to hand over. But if they choose not to, we're in an Esther moment now. If they choose not to, and we have seen that they have delayed and they will choose not to, there has to be the alternative, because your salvation will come from somewhere else and they will suffer the destruction. So I want to talk about tribal sovereignty. Not so long ago, our own Prime Minister addressed the Maroons as a separatist faction and made a bold statement, an impassioned statement in Parliament, that not 1 inch of Jamaica will be ceded to separatists under his watch. Now, the issue of tribal sovereignty, which is tied up in that Declaration of Indigenous Peoples from the United Nations, has, in my mind, given us the platform for what Pastor is speaking of. If they fail to do the right thing, we are free to make the choices that are important for us. So I'd love to hear you speak on the alternative, because when they delay or when they fail to, we keep moving, don't we?
Exactly. Well, we're not a nation of crime and violence, as
Thank
we are
you.
the people who have long written the scriptures, where in which the same British government translated and called it the Bible. But then, as His Majesty, we should all know that we, the people, above all organizations, stand governmentally, statically, churchically, parliamentally, sabbatically, and ayabingi. Now, as you said before concerning the tribal issues,
Sovereignty, yeah.
yes, if the Prime Minister should say that the Maroons have no such sovereignty, that would be contrary to the fact of Jamaica being independent. Because if you said we are an independent nation, we should break away from the Queen. Therefore, you shouldn't be speaking down on one of the tribe in the country.
True.
As for the fact that Jamaican public, they should know that Miguel Collins was given a title crown from Ghana. I've visited Ghana, I've done 2 shows in Ghana, and upon leaving the country, the chief came to the hotel and crowned me the first royal crown prince of the Toronto throne and pioneer for the repatriation movement. And I was given lands such as a gold mine in Ghana and the title crown. I brought that same chief here to the Nyabingi Theocracy in the Scotch Pass, and I brought that same chief to Bobo Shanti. Now, the Bobo Shanti is part and parcel of the Jamaica nation, because when you had the persecution with the Roman Catholics, these people left Jerusalem and went to deeper Africa. They are the same people forming themselves just to avoid the Roman persecution. They formed that dynasty where the same kings and queens of the Ashanti tribes descended. So the Ashanti tribes are very much the people and the leaders, rulers in Jamaica. So we know as a people should let the government of Jamaica know that if we weren't an indigenous set of people such as the Maroons, there wouldn't have been an established treaty. And if you should say we have no authority concerning the land, you are just merely saying we should destroy the treaty between the Maroons and the British.
And the British.
And in destroying the treaty, that would furtherly bring us to where you say we can do things by ourselves as a people.
It's time
Great.
for us to take the break, and I believe it's a fitting point, because Jamaicans listening need to understand that you have authority and you have power, you have rights, and there are some decisions up ahead of us which will require great fortitude. So thank you for sharing that. Let's
You're
take our
welcome.
break, and then when we come back, we'll just wrap up and say our goodbyes to the president and his team, because the our digital literacy segment is going to follow in short order. Good morning and welcome back to the Morning Connection. You know, during the break, we sometimes dive deeper than we do on air. And this was one such moment, because Pastor Percival, rather surprisingly, began to communicate with the artist in the Sizzler. Of course, he's here as president. So we're going to try and pull him back from the alluring cosmic and get back now to the business of Rastafarian Month. For this last segment, I would like us to speak a little bit about what lies ahead. I think the president laid a very commanding track in terms of the politics. I understand too that tied up in the politics is the economics of making sure that the creed to feed the hungry, to clothe the naked, I know that it has to be met. So I'm sensing, Mr. President, that in the next round, we are going to see a lot more activism in those areas.
Exactly.
In terms of the economy.
In terms of the economics.
Because as a wise lady sitting beside you said, you know, we struggled for a long time to get the recognition. But then when we reach there, we never have no money. Because the system still hold on to the money.
Yes.
So you are very much into, because she put on the table the idea in terms of the creative, that there needs to be a way that what has happened with the music internationally comes back to the people so it can drive economic change and reform. What do you think about that?
And here you have a very good example I myself as an artist.
Yeah.
Because the music is lucrative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've made lots of monies from the music, a lot of not just money, but the basic ingredients for the reggae music came out of the natural indigenous culture of Rastafari from the people of the island of Jamaica, who are descendants from the Africans. So therefore, I personally took it as my part and whose lot it has fallen to administrate upon the government of black people, poor people, and put your money where your mouth is. Therefore, I'm in the streets singing for the people. They have nothing to do with writing a song or even a line in the music, yet they purchase your songs, they supported you at the stage shows, yet there are set foundations in the highland to direct these people to their African spiritual ways, and we are not doing it. Therefore, some of us, we're not much better than the politicians.
Tell me a little bit about the trust, because you have to have a vehicle through which you collect and distribute the benefits of
all right, I would let the Ancient Council designated the Millennium Council to do a lot of work. So that question, I think it would be best for Maxine to answer that question concerning the trust of Rastafari.
And then, Sister Max, you could lead into what are the next steps in the month. Aside from the visit that Pastor Percy has commissioned, there will be a royal visit in proper vestments. So that will happen. We have to put a date to that one, but tell us a little bit about the trust.
Yeah, well, the Rastafari Trust Fund was instituted in 2011 as the outcome of negotiations in relation to indigenous intellectual property rights and ownership. Rastafari community, I think, if I dated it from the late 70s and the early 80s, certainly after the transition of Bob Marley, is when Rastafari culture went, to the zenith in terms of lifestyle companies and trade and festivals and huge
big
commerce,
business.
Big business. And so the community has talked about their intellectual property rights in terms of managing it. It started actually with negotiations with Bob Marley, and as he was ascending, and certainly the Wailers, as we all know, were the pioneers, some of the early pioneers, gospel missionaries, apostles.
The apostles.
So at this stage, we are, Jamaica as a whole has not protected its people. It's not just Rastafari.
So this is Jamaica in the sense of government institutions that would normally carry out those functions.
We are more like fertilizer to global industries and global music forms now. We are being challenged as to whether we own what we even create in reggae, big discussion now because a white American group won the Reggae Grammy, which signaled, in the consciousness of the people what is happening, So even yesterday we were up at Judgment Yard and an artist, white artist with Rastafari locks, came and sat at the feet of Sizzler and was strumming, and I'm looking at the whole thing and saying, it seems to be free, but that needs to be administrated.
Right. And so
you know what I mean?
That's where the trust fits in now.
Yes, and even he was directing to the individual, we own the locks and we own what you can do, or we are supposed to tell you. It seemed to be an organic discussion, but it has to rise to the level of policy.
Right.
You understand? So this is where the Rastafari Trust Fund is situated, that we needed to have now a vehicle that we were given instructions by the indigenous rights as to how to set up that vehicle. And that vehicle has also inspired similar vehicles in South Africa. And we, the president will be working on a mission to Ethiopia where a similar trust
will be established there. So can I say in very clear terms then that the trust is open for business, and that those who have benefited for decades from the glory and the wealth of the culture now have a vehicle into which they can put something back for the benefit of the community.
Definitely. And the goodwill that we have generated is even bigger than what people owe us.
Absolutely. And this group of jazz soldiers who won the Grammy, I am sure that in the spirit of even just the music that they have chosen, that they are ready to give back.
Yeah, but it has to be policy. You know,
and that's
is it.
and that's
It's
our
not,
job.
It should not be
But
right.
wouldn't
Exactly.
that be our job?
Yeah, that's our job.
That's our job.
That's the
All
job
right.
of the office.
Tell me a little bit more about the rest of the month, and then we don't want to wrap up and take our leave, but that time always comes.
Right. Well, the president has a speech about the month. So
excellent. So back to the president then. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. And before going into the month, I would like to expound on the trust. Now, concerning the trust, there are principles set where the foundations of His Majesty concerning the Bobo Shanti and the theocracy and the Judah Coptic, they are bank accounts before even being established before the trust.
2011
So,
before 2011.
I'm the treasurer for the Nyabingi Theocracy Reign, and I'm also the treasurer for the Haile Selassie Judah Coptic. Concerning monies going into the accounts for His Majesty's Foundation, there are persons being designated with their signatures. Without these three persons, no money will be dispersed. So, based upon the principle of the trust, anything going out of the foundation must be authorized by the priest, the treasurer, and the secretary, and the family
There's
to oversee
order. In other
what's
words,
going
there's
on. So
order and
concerning, it doesn't matter what trust or where the
Transparency.
trust is at, there are set principles of the foundation that will oversee the trust. So the trust will still be administered by the priest and the elders, ancient council of all the foundation.
Excellent.
Now, concerning the month of
April.
His Majesty, April, I would like to start with this, the mandate for Rastafari Nyabingi Theocracy before going into the month, because going into the month, we should be practicing and keeping the precepts of the foundation. So concerning the Bingi man, a Rasta man is an ancient, someone who is at least 60 years of age with 40 years reputable trading in the faith. The ancient council, previously known as the Assembly of Elders, has been established since the foundation of the Nyabingi order in 1947. The ancient council has been functioning as the vanguard and custodian of the Rastafari movement here in Jamaica since the leadership of founder patriarch, the Right Honorable Leonard P. Howell. The ancient council was revised in 1998 and 2003 with the structuring of a working administration for accountability and responsibility. The ancient council consists of 24 active ancients who are still among the congregation of the Nyabingi. 13 members are responsible for presiding over meetings once a month to deal with the overall administration of the Rastafari movement globally. Administrative post, the chair, the coordinator, the secretary. All for one, one for all. Working in this manner, there will be no failure. The vision statement for the Nyabingi Theocracy Reign: I and I claim victory through humility, discipline, and perseverance with what the mind conceive and believe it can achieve through love, wisdom, commitment, focused action, and overstanding. The mission statement for the Rastaman is: the Council of Ancients stands as the vanguard and custodian for the Rastafari movement globally. The Council of Ancients takes it as a prime duty to see to it that the children of the slave trade are adequately returned and resettled in the land from whence they were taken, Ethiopia, Africa. The duties: the Council of Ancients takes it as a prime duty to centralize the Rastafari movement under the banner according to the Constitution written by His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie in 1934 and the revision 1951. The Council of Ancients takes it as a prime duty to authorize, advise, and observe any and every administration carried out in the name of Rastafari. The Council of Ancients will continue to make contact with all Rastafari organizations to have a consultant from each of them appointed to the council, and once this is done, a global call will be made to all consultants to deliberate and establish one program of action for a global Rastafari community, hence the referendum. So this month of April now is being designated by the Rastafari family there's a lot more to be communicating with, but for the most part, we've reached out to the Bobo Shanti, the Judah Coptic, Maxine herself, reach out to a lot more persons, Rastafari and a whole lot. So this month, it was the recording of man's activity throughout his life and his outstanding performances in abiding by the laws and instruction laid down by his creator, ancestors and elders that have caused us to be the true narrators of such abundant wealth of knowledge that is presently the prime source of reference today. Therefore, we continue to have recorded the constant agitation of repatriation for our black brothers and sisters in slavery today, in having a designated month of celebration for Rastafari, Emperor Haile Selassie. It will further enhance us in the light of a new day and the renaissance for black people worldwide to unite and be of one, our own black family. We see this as a month of spectacular and radiant knowledge sharing based on natural historical fact that is the first month of the 13th Hebrew Israelite month, the month of Abib. Right, based upon the Bible. This is very wholesome. We must now step forward with the zeal of Ethiopia Africa to put these significant dates to collective use and continue with the same power and will that have caused these days in our month of April to be of such significance and be the same in time to come. Hence we have the month of April being designated by the Rastafari family a month of celebration, administration, and the list goes on, etc. Thank you. Happy Rastafari month.
He
To
said,
you also.
as he
Happy
goes,
Rastafari month.
as a pastor, moved internationally, one of the things I've said to people, the ultimate return of the Lord Jesus Christ in all of his glory will happen when the race of black people come back to the fore. It started with us.
It will end with us.
It will end with us. So
Blessings.
when we come back to a knowledge of who we are and what it is that God through his infinite wisdom has given to us, then he will emerge.
Thank you very much.
I could not have said it better. Thank you very much, all of you. We didn't get to hear the drums, unless you want to do a slight thing now as you are taking our
Eli,
leave.
Selassie, Jah, Rastafari, Prince and Princess shall come out of Egypt, and we Ethiopia shall stretch forth our hands and heart unto Jah. O Jah of Ethiopia, his own divine majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie, thy iris come to all dwelling parts of righteousness. Lead us, help us to forgive that we must be forgiven. Teach us love and loyalty on earth as in Zion. Endure serve thy wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to do thy will. Thy blessings to us, the hungry be fed, the naked be clothed, the sick be nourished, the aged protected, and the infants be cared for. Deliver us from the hands of our enemies, that we may be fruitful in these last days, when our enemies have passed and decayed, depths of the seas, depths of the earth, bowl of the beast. Oh, give us all a place in thy kingdom for ever and ever. Yelemai, Selassie, Jah, Rastafari. Say the new name, Jagat, and terrible amongst them. He then not like Janet. Say the new name, Jagat, and terrible amongst them. He then not like Janet.
You name.
Said it's a new name, precious name, new name, Jah Rastafari. Said it's a new name, precious name, new name, Jah Rastafari. And when you call him Rastafari, watch how we can't tremble. He then not like Janet. And when you call him Rastafari, watch how we can't tremble. He then not like Janet. In a whole amount Zion, in a whole amount Zion. Babylon, you Babylon gone. How are they increase that trouble in the Most High? Many are they that rise up against thy soul. Many are they that say that they don't help in Haile Selassie. But Haile Selassie is our shield. Haile Selassie is our glory. And lift our fire in our head. I call unto the Most High, and he hear us out of the holy hill. I will not be afraid of 10,000 of enemies who have set themselves around me about. Arise, O Rastafari, save thy children. For Rastafari has broken the cheek of the ungodly and broken the teeth of all those enemies. Selassie, bless and keep you always. Jah Rastafari. Precious. In the name of Rastafari.
Blessings.
I'm honored. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, I could not have Judgment Yard, headquarters for the month. Every evening, every night. All right. We're going into our break now, so I can actually get a picture with Sister Maxine.
In all of our glory.
Welcome back to the Morning Connection. Thank you so much. I hope you have been enjoying the morning's offerings as much as we here on site are enjoying it. We've just said our goodbye to the Rastafarian royalty that we had in the house. And we are very pleased to fill this chair now with fresh royalty. And his name says it all. Professor Golding, welcome.
Morning. Nice to be here.
Thank you.
Morning, nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you also for patiently waiting on us. We would have started a bit earlier, but we do go until 10, and if you were the wise man that I think you are, you would have apportioned a little more time for us in your diary. I know you are busy, but we won't keep you for very long, but long enough for you to deliver yourself of all that you have prepared for us.
Sure.
Being pregnant with the information.
That's why he wanted you to stay away.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Morning Connection.
The two of you have some history now. I want to hear of it. In due course, I want to hear of it.
Oh, my Lord.
So this is the first episode in a series that the Morning Connection has decided to host. It is on the subject of digital literacy, recognizing that as the world around us becomes increasingly electronic and based in the metaverse, as the universe becomes the metaverse, we need to be more knowledgeable about how to navigate this space. So this episode is going to look at issues, concepts such as artificial intelligence. We want to look at coding, the language of the universe, how it is built. We want to look at how people move around in this space, and the real idea is to sensitize our audience on how to acquire the skill set for a variety of activities. Professor Paul Golding comes to us from the College of Business Management at the University of Technology in Jamaica. He is well known as a commentator on things to do with the area of technology, and the last exciting piece that I read from him had to do with misinformation, the lies that we get told and how those lies are converted into policy, which made him the perfect choice to start our series. Misinformation, disinformation,
propaganda, all of that.
Yes, it was lies, and how leaders lie to bring the nation behind them with the different choices. At the time you were writing on the war in Ukraine.
Right.
Well, how are you feeling as your theories that were in your article? You're seeing them played out now, aren't you?
Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed.
There's nothing new under the sun, Prof.
No, there's absolutely nothing new under the sun.
As it was in the beginning, so it shall be in the
we
end.
just recycle it and give it a new name.
A new name!
That is true.
Yes.
I'm a player of the what happened name.
Yeah.
But so we know he was enjoying the music.
But as you say that, I reflect on the deception of Eve. Did God say? It is not the truth. It is a truth plus a little thing, mix it to make it God. That's what it is, isn't it?
Yes, you flavor it.
Yes, man, you flavor it in a way which is what continues to happen.
You will not surely die.
Yes.
You will be like gods.
Yes. Oh, so that is part of what you're talking about.
And from the beginning.
Aye.
From the beginning.
So are we gods of this universe, the virtual world? How is it built? We built it? Did we really build it?
No. But before I start,
Yes.
I need to do a public service announcement.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. I was asked to hail up my squash crew from UTEC.
Listen, man, that is a
not-
tremendous public service announcement.
If not,
You could not go back to university. Yes.
You can share mine.
I can't return. So I've done
Please
Making sure.
call them by name. Give us their weight, their age, their how skilled are they in
That's
squash.
misinformation or
Yes.
disinformation,
Oh,
Prof.
that would be misinformation to talk about their skills.
Probably they don't want you to talk about their skills.
No.
At which point then I can say good morning to Professor John Lindo. I'm sure his skills are improving on the squash court. We should do a squash and Yui tournament.
And UTEC.
Yeah. At UWI and UTEC, yes, tournament. At UWI, they've had some recently refurbished courts.
As
yes.
just told, yeah.
Yeah.
I need to go take a look.
All right, the producer is gonna set it up. Then we will report on the outcome of that tournament on this program. So your squash buddies will get full mention. They
Very
can
good,
start
very
shaping
good.
up.
Now that they know. I mean, it's a national radio, international radio.
Absolutely,
Yes.
there are pictures to show for it. All right, so you have taken care of the PSA. So
Yes.
now, what about this universe? Did we really build it? Are we gods in this universe?
No, I think, truth be told, is that we are pawns in this universe.
Oh dear.
Because I don't think most of us knows exactly what is going on in terms of how this universe is being built. And maybe the word should not be built, is how it's being, is how it's evolving.
Evolving.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
organic somewhat.
Yes. So the universe itself is evolving, and as a result of that, even the term the metaverse is
Part of the evolution.
yes, because the term does not have a full and concrete meaning as yet.
True.
It is evolving. Persons have an idea as to what this metaverse should look like. Have some idea as to how it should work, but we really don't know how it should work, how it will work,
Okay.
right? And there's a lot of technologies involved in it, and those technologies are also evolving.
Evolving.
So you really don't know exactly what the metaverse is. And because you have so many things evolving, you have persons who may have a little bit more information, and what they do is to use that, as we call information asymmetry, in which you have more information than me, and therefore you start selling me something that I really don't want.
Okay.
So that is part of what is going on.
So you're kind of inviting me now to say that the metaverse is a trademark name,
Right.
for just a world of unmanageable data that people are seeking to harness. But because the data represents information about human activity, it seems to me that the virtual world is really the consciousness of man trapped in some kind of space.
well,
Because it flows out of our conscious thinking and doings, and we feel something, we write it, it is captured somewhere. Just this morning I was reading about Twitter. Twitter regards itself as a warehouse of historical data. And so it's capturing what you wrote in the past, it's preserving it in the present and leaving it for the future. And it is the collective consciousness of human endeavors that is being represented in this space, which means it carries both our good thoughts and our bad thoughts.
Which will be used against us in the future.
at the turn of the century, it became the age of big data,
Right?
right? In which data then became the fuel of an economy.
Right?
And the expectation is that if not now, but in the future, persons who harness and own the data
Control the world.
will have control.
But doesn't it take you back to that this it is pretty much a truism that knowledge is power,
Yes,
and that's not a new sentiment.
it's not a new sentiment. it's just maybe, as one would put it, on steroids now, because so much data and everything can be harnessed and used. When you look, for instance, at algorithms, if I go on YouTube right now, there's going to be recommendations
That you, yes, it
for me
happens
to
all the
watch,
time. Yeah.
right? And then, based on what I watch, there'll be further
More
recommendations
recommendations,
as to
yes.
what I should watch, right?
So
And it goes on and on and on, and it happens not just on YouTube.
Everything.
It happens on all of the platforms.
So then, if we wanted to give it a definition, this universe or this world is a combination of data, which is just information, loads and loads of raw information. So it's a combination of information and the systems that mine or analyze or pull from that information. Would that be a fair summary?
I think that would be a fair summary. But the thinking, and I want to say the thinking is that these two worlds, the physical world and the virtual world, should merge. That's the
one.
thinking, into one. As it is now, these two worlds are separate. So you have a online personality versus a physical personality.
That be your avatar?
Yeah, it could be your avatar.
It could be your avatar, and avatar is being pushed as part of this. So this is you. As it is now, we have a different personality generally online than we have.
That's so true. You've heard the term catfishing.
Yes.
So is that an absence of integrity?
No,
I'm
it's
pushing the
just-
dialogue a little
yes.
bit because you're raising some real weighty matters that I think as we seek to sensitize persons, it's for them to try and catch it in the natural understanding of things. So far we've looked at the basic construct being the information and lots of it,
Yes.
big data, the systems that interact with the data, whether it is through the algorithms that capture the data and shape it into a trend or pull out a decision from it, a judgment.
Yes.
The algorithm is sort of like the judge that parses through the information and pulls what is
Based on
the
history.
answer to your question, so to speak. But now, and you've talked about the personality now, avatars, or I use that word, forget that. The idea that who you are in the actual world has a relationship with who you are in this virtual world. And you're highlighting that it's not necessarily the same.
There's a big disconnect.
You now have choice to create a personality or persona
Yes.
in the virtual world, which is not relatable to your actual existence.
Yeah, but from a behavioral standpoint, we don't know how one will influence the other. As it is now, we know that
So that's the psychology of
generally,
it.
right, there is a difference. You may be online and far more outspoken than you would be
In person.
Yeah.
So you will express things very colorfully to online, while
When you
in
interact with the
physical
person, the real, that's not the person at all.
It's not the person. But the question is, over time, how does these two worlds impact and reinforce each other?
Or intersect.
Right? Does your persona in the virtual world eventually impacts your persona in the real world? Because as it is now, there is no online etiquette. As it is now, you do what you want, you say what you want, and the only people who are policing you on the and I use
The owners
are the
the
owners
of
the platforms.
Right. And we saw that recently in terms of what happened with the election in the US when a story that
Yes.
could have affected the election
Yes.
was suppressed. And now it is emerging that it was really so in terms of the so-called the hard drive of Hunter Biden that has now come into the fore. People are saying, oh, no, it was dead. No, it's become a real issue.
Yeah,
But
but it no longer impacts the election.
Right. You see, it no longer has an impact. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So the owners of the information can do what they want with it. They cause you to make judgments that if you have all of the information, you'll probably make that difference.
I want to make a point here, the 2016 US election, it was shown how you can use information to skew things
Right.
in a serious way. If you ask me, the same thing might have happened in the UK with Brexit,
Absolutely.
Okay.
So that's one big thing. We have not put as much emphasis on it. The second thing, I think that was huge, again associated with the United States and elections, is what happened in the 2020 election, in which platform owner could say, listen, I'm going to muzzle you. And that muzzling was far more effective than traditional media.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you have answered the question that you posed just by the historical data that you've referenced. The question is, which has the overwhelming impact? Your online persona or your real world persona? And from what you've just highlighted for us, I'm seeing where the online activity had a tremendous impact on the real world experience. So the power of the one to influence the other has been demonstrated. You can create a narrative online, and it replaces the truth in the real world,
Very much so.
which tells us then that it is a place of great power.
Of great power, immense power. And because what has happened is that a lot of persons who use traditional media are persons with gray hair. And there is this whole thing about fake news and what have you, which you are at a point now in which you really can't tell
Look at
what is
deep,
true,
the deep fake.
right, and what is
It's
not true.
something else.
And the traditional means of which you'd have so-called gotten the truth is no longer considered reliable by a number of persons. They will not listen to some of these media
Legacy
because
media, whatever.
yes, and truth be told, is that these all media have an agenda.
True.
That's true. Yeah, we know that.
All media have an agenda, and nothing is wrong with an agenda. But you the person who is consuming the media,
Must
should
know.
know exactly what
Be
this
able to
agenda
discern.
is, right? So that you can pass through it to see, well, okay, what is going on here, as opposed to consuming everything and saying, okay, this
That's
is
the
the
truth.
truth, the old truth,
And nothing but.
yes.
So what
God
are
really
what are
say?
the pointers that we can give to our listeners
Yes, that's important.
on how to navigate this space? Because that's
gosh.
one of the objectives
Of the
of this
digital
first
literacy.
episode. And I know it's just a bite because it is a
Looks like you're
world
going
of
to come back,
information.
Professor. So
Let me say this. I want to use the what is happening locally
Yes.
to make this point. We are at a place now in which there is not much desire to inform. There is more of a compulsion to misinform.
Manipulate.
Yes, because it can bring you profit.
And that's not new. A lot of the case law and the precedents in that deal with slander and just printing stuff that is not true. It is the punishment is based on a calculation that you have estimated that you will make more money printing the untrue information or the malicious eye-catching information than you would printing the truth. So when the court seeks to condemn that kind of behavior,
Yeah, that
it
costs us
punishes you in the pocket.
Yes.
It's the same principle you're highlighting now. Go ahead.
There's this case of opioids, right?
yes, right. A big thing.
Right, and what I can't remember the name of the company now, but what they did was to calculate that. Well, okay, how much money am I going to make by pushing opioids?
By the time they
Right.
catch up with me.
When it's time for me to pay,
But I've made enough money that.
what would that be?
So you mean they actually sat on Prof and did that?
It's a
They normally
business.
do.
It's a
It's a
business.
business.
I'm just asking you. So
Yeah,
it's
man.
so the heart of man is wicked.
It's a business.
Yes,
So
so-
what you do is look at revenue and expenses,
Right.
right? Being sued for this is an expense.
True.
Precisely.
Right.
You make preparations for
Yeah,
it.
so you make preparations for it, and you
Just-
know that this is going to
It's
happen.
just another
right?
risk.
But what you then do is to say, well, okay, how much more can I make
Until they catch up with me.
until they catch up with me,
And then how much I'll pay.
and how much I'll pay, right? And you may even determine who is going to go to prison for you,
Oh, yes.
right?
Who's the fall guy?
Who's the fall guy?
Who is that going to be? So all that gets
And then they
done
declare
from
bankruptcy.
Before.
They
Oh.
pay out the money that they had earmarked.
Yes.
And then they declare bankruptcy.
It's a rough
and
world.
this has been the case for forever. When you look at big tobacco, for instance,
Oh,
it's the
yes.
same thing.
Same thing,
that
Same
was a
same
thing.
thing.
tip of
And the producer
disinform-
remind me about Apple and Samsung. Samsung has built a range of products on the stolen Apple designs.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
And then
oh,
and
yes.
then they paid up the billions
Oh yes.
when they come.
Oh yes. Oh
But
yes.
you can hardly tell the technology different now because it's the same pattern.
But it raises
You make
it-
a calculation.
Yes,
So it
and-
raises the questions as you continue to speak about the whole thing of morals. In this new
Oh.
world, there are no morals.
It's not a new world as it relates to morals, you know. It has always been that way.
It's funny, the two of you started off about, things being the same.
Yes.
And then he used the word new.
Yeah, no, it's
the same.
Always been
it's the
this,
same
yes.
thing. You make business calculations and you look to see, well, okay, what it is going to be worth to me, and you budget for it.
Wow.
And it means that you put down reserves for it to say, well, okay, this is going to come due at some point, and
You
therefore
make your provision.
you make your provisions for it, and when it comes due, you can pay.
Would you say that the whole thing of disinformation is a strategy that a lot of individuals and corporations are now using?
Let me give you an example. I'm coming in just now and I'm listening to the radio, and I don't want to mention any company name,
Right.
but they said we can give you a package, a solar package for $650,000. I've heard another one said $500,000. Now you can get a solar package for $500,000 or $650,000, but it is not going to be beneficial for you. It means that all you're going to get is maybe 6 or 8 panels, right? And some racks and what have you. You're not going to get any battery backup, which is extremely important to you
Right.
as a consumer, because you're going to use most electricity during the evening and into the night when you get home. During the day, you are not going to be able to get much out of this. And so if I sell you a package for $650,000, it's going to generate a lot of energy during the day, which you're not going to use.
Yeah, because nobody's
Right.
at home.
Nobody's at home. You may
Yes.
use it on a Saturday or a Sunday. So when you're done and you're looking to see, okay, what benefit should I get from this? The consumer is going to complain and say, listen, I'm not getting what
My
I
needs
thought,
still are
right?
not met.
So you don't give the consumer all the information, but you sell the consumer something, a product, which you're saying, listen, I'm giving you a solar unit. And you're saying, well, yes, I'm going to. And there's no regulation now in that area.
Oh, yes.
Right? There's absolutely no regulation in that area. So you find that these things are happening. You have some persons who have more morals than others, and they'll say to you that, listen, $650,000 is not really going to help you to solve your problem. But others will send you a package and will give you loans and all that kind of thing. And basically what they want to know is, what is your ability to pay? And if you can pay it back, the person, you're fine.
You're in.
Yeah.
But to the point you made earlier about big data, the utility and I think the attraction that this world holds for most of us is that you can find an answer to almost any question you pose. In the situation you just outlined, someone could go on and say, what are people saying about this product? And somewhere in this virtual world is a complaint by, persons saying, well, I bought it and it was good value for money, but I found that I couldn't get this or I couldn't get that. And the in the context that knowledge is power, this universe of information is a very powerful ally to consumers, to developers, whomever is seeking to do anything. You will find that sometimes I put in a question. I remember once watching a comedy, and it's a comedy about two really fat people in a relationship. And I looked at the two persons. I'm saying, do they really look like that, or are they in a fat suit? For some reason, I was just preoccupied by the idea of these two really fat persons in a love relationship, and it's a
fat
comedy. And I said, I really want to know. So I started to type in, and let's say the one character's name is Paul. I put, is Paul in a, by the time I got to inner, it completed fat suit. Somewhere else in the world, somebody had already researched whether the character was in a fat suit.
Yes.
And even with my knowledge of technology, that was amazing to me. Because I thought, this aberrant thought that I had, which there's nothing politically correct about the thought, let me be honest. I was just thinking, these people, they can't be really that fat in real life. They must be made up for the show. Somebody else had that thought. And when I researched it, of course, somebody else had put up an answer. And do you know, in fact, persons, they do use fat suits to give people a morbidly obese look for one reason or another. So that's another part of the world in which we live, where you can create a whole new body for an individual, represent it in a show that is consumed and creates the impression that a really fat person can do this or that, which in reality, usually they can't.
Okay. So, well,
I got the signal for the break.
Great.
But when we come back, I would like us to talk about the usefulness of the world, because so far we've been talking about the constraints and the limitations of it. But persons need to know that it is a rich minefield through which you can build businesses, shape careers, destroy lives too, but mostly it has great value. Please, let's take the break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Morning Connection. We are delighted to have with us Professor Paul Golding. He has been educating us, and hopefully you've learned a few things too on this issue of digital literacy, but specifically how this virtual universe is constructed, the utility of it, some of the do's and don'ts. It is a larger topic that one could comfortably cover even in a show of this sort. So we're really just sensitizing you, opening up your mind to appreciate that this world is real. It's a virtual world, but the value of it, the economies that have been built on it. I mean, most of you are familiar with the work of influencers who create a whole industry on social media. So we understand that there are parts of the world that is pure science, part that is software based, and it's just the algorithms that work in the universe, the workforce of the universe. But if you would just speak to us on some other elements of it, social media in particular being one aspect of it, and the economies that can come out of your interaction with this virtual world.
That before you speak, the whole thing of digital literacy. I remember this is something that actually happened. There was a young lady who was in class, and the teacher was saying she's not understanding what I'm talking about. I says, okay, probably she can't read and write. So I simply said to her, come here. And I took out the paper, and she read it perfectly. And I said to her, do you understand what you're reading? She went blank. So when we're talking about digital literacy, what are we actually referring to in terms of the literacy part of it?
Okay. So let me look at digital literacy first, and then what I'll do is to look at the technology itself, which is a whole slew of technologies, really. But digital literacy really is having the skills, the know-how to operate in a fully digital environment.
Okay.
There's a framework to it which looks at access, for instance. So you need to have access. Without access, you cannot participate in this transformational digital economy that is evolving now. You need to be able to communicate.
Okay. Access communication.
Right. Access communication. You need to. There's a privacy and security part of it.
Okay.
What else is in the framework? There's a policy. I can't remember everything else that is in the framework, but generally what digital literacy is having the skill to participate effectively in a digital environment.
Okay.
And also knowing the risk that is associated with it, because
Okay.
people tend to forget about that part of it, but you need to understand the risk that is associated with it. um, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I just want to make one point. When we even look now at what is being pushed with digital wallets, there are extremely good benefits to be had from it.
True.
But there's also other
downside.
things that you need to know about, which we're not being told about. But that's for another time or another place. But so that is the definition for what digital literacy is, without going into all
Yes.
of the details.
The skill set to navigate the virtual environment.
Right. Now,
mhm.
now, talking about the technology itself, any technology that you have is dichotomous, right? Meaning that if you have a knife, which is a good piece of technology, it can be used to cut things and cook dinner and what have you, but it can also be used as a
Inflict
weapon
harm.
to kill. Right? The same thing with a car. A car is very convenient. It takes you, or any kind of motor vehicle, it takes you from point A to point B quickly, but there's also every year deaths associated with it. The same thing with digital technology.
Yes, it's a tool
Right.
and it's a weapon.
It's a tool. That's exactly what it is. It's a tool and it's a weapon. And persons have weaponized it, right? And persons have used it as a tool. And we saw a lot of it being used as a tool, especially during COVID. Without Zoom, for instance, classes would not have continued.
Business meetings.
Business meetings, all of these kinds
Socializing.
of things would not have continued if that technology was not around. The mental problems that would have been associated with this, with
The
this
isolation.
pandemic,
Yes.
for not Zoom and other platforms like that, would
Was
have been
significant.
it would have been significant,
Yes.
right?
Okay.
Because there would have been no socialization. In fact, since the pandemic, what you have found out is that the people that you live with, you have learned more about them than you did before. Because when you are at work, you spend 8 hours at work awake. So the people at work, you knew them pretty well, right? And you'd go home, and for a couple of hours, you would socialize with your family and what have you. And then you go sleep, and the next morning you're up and you're gone
And you're
again.
back on the same
right?
grind, yes.
No, what happened during COVID is that you had to learn to know the people around you, even
They're the
at
same
a
house.
deeper level than you did before. And for some person, they realize that really, I can't stand you.
Hey!
For
You
so
know that-
long.
You know,
Yes, and
that,
you
you
didn't
know that
realize-
divorce went up in some countries.
Yes.
So did violence against women and children and
yes,
some
yes.
various sexual
Yes. And
because
violence
it's
against men too, but that's
ad-
another story.
violence
Yes,
against
that you-
partners.
Oh my lord!
So it's transformative of lifestyle
Of course.
and work patterns.
Yes, and I don't think we have given Zoom, for instance, the credit that
The
it
credit.
deserves,
Yeah.
because it has
FaceTime.
Yeah.
I mean, FaceTime was the way through the means by which many people said goodbye to loved ones
Yes.
who were dying in hospitals.
Right.
Yeah.
But the technology,
Oh, the
overall,
technology.
you're quite right. It
And
was
when you
a
look
great
at
partner
other,
to us.
Yes, when you
in
look
those
at other
times.
aspects of it too, being able to shop online, especially for food,
Right.
persons got innovative.
Businesses came out of it. Economic
Businesses-
activity.
Yes, the economy
activity
behind
came
it.
out of it, right?
Excellent.
So it is clear.
We haven't had drone delivery in Jamaica,
Not-
but it's
yes,
coming.
But it's coming. Yeah, it's coming. So there is a lot of innovation that came out of it,
Right.
and most of these innovations were driven by technology. Other than that, these things we would not. The way we responded to COVID without technology, it would have been completely different.
Yeah.
Completely different. And chances are what would have happened is that the pandemic would have lasted longer, because it would have required more interaction for you even to get food.
Right. Yes. So the
Right.
isolation,
The
which we
isolation
were
would
able
have
to
been far more
difficult to achieve.
Yes.
And you saw how some people broke. The parties had to go on,
Yes.
notwithstanding, because the isolation proved to be unbearable for some. The economies, you've touched on that. I think that might be enough for this session. But how do we acquire those skill sets? We've had one or two persons who have called and said, whatever training is available, I want to be included.
Okay. There are not a lot of outlets now for training as it relates.
So that's
to
another
this.
business that can come out of it.
Yes. I mentioned while we were on break about microcredits, and microcredits are credits in which
So this is at your university?
Yes, because we're looking at University of Technology, we're looking at microcredits in which what you do is not go through a full degree. You have a menu and you can select from the menu.
Train for the job.
Yes.
Training for that
Right.
specific job, which is something that Hart has pioneered also in terms of designing. You call it microcredits, just something for the job. So and there
Right.
you go and say this job, and then you have the full thing, like in terms of in the food preparation.
Yes.
Or you can just be
Yeah.
trained to just make sandwiches, and that's the
Yes.
job that you have.
Yeah, so Hart has actually put out a series of videos that do exactly that. And the lecturer there, who is the voice of those videos, she's going to come on the program with us. If I can organize some sort of interaction, I will, because she has been doing these like 5-minute videos that speak to just a specialized, a small area of things. And it's part of their digital literacy program, appreciating that persons learn in different ways.
Yes.
And some are very visual, and if you have a video, it's a much more appealing way to deliver the information than if they have to read and sit in a classroom.
Yes.
And so on. How is the university itself utilizing the technology in the delivery of education?
What I found is that delivering online,
Takes more work.
I don't think so.
To get used to it, some people said,
No, for me, what it has done, and for a lot of my colleagues, what it has done, it has opened a lot of other opportunities.
oh, that's what it has done.
Yeah, I use videos more than I normally would have, and like you say, when I use a video and then I explain it after, students say,
That's
A
what
new
you're
level of
talking about.
understanding.
Yeah.
Yes.
right? So I have done, for instance, if I use just one example, I have said to students, listen, do not go in an airport, for instance, or using a public Wi-Fi and do anything
Financial,
secure.
gone
Right,
into your
anything
bank
financial.
account.
Don't do anything like that. You can browse the internet, but don't go do anything else, right? And I explained to them what an evil twin was, in which, but when I showed them what an evil twin was and how it works, in which somebody can be sitting over there with a computer, and what they're doing, what I'm seeing is their Wi-Fi hotspot. It is called Ligani Club, free Wi-Fi, but it's not really Ligani Club's free Wi-Fi, right?
It's the evil twin.
Is the evil twin. So I'm there now, and I am browsing. I'm not browsing. I decided to go pay something on my bank.
Oh,
And
And you
all the
jump on the free
information that you go
Wi-Fi.
on the free Wi-Fi, and all the information that I am transmitting
It's captured.
is being captured.
by that individual.
By
And when you
that
go in your bank
individual.
account, you reach up, it's empty.
Yeah. But you're still getting online, you know.
You know, but
Yes. So
You're still getting online, but what is happening now is that there is an evil twin in between you and the internet who is gathering all your information and can therefore go and do whatever they want to do with. In fact, what they'll do is impersonate you after this. They have
afterwards,
become
steal your
you
identity and
Yeah.
spend your money.
all your money.
Yes. So, and that's one of the skill is the knowledge of how it works,
Yes.
so that you're not easily drawn into compromising
Right.
positions. In the real world, if you were approaching the bank and you saw a man, well, these days a mask would not be the thing to tell you he's a robber, but maybe if you saw a man without a mask, I'm just being facetious, but if you saw an obvious danger, you could take steps you would say, boy, I'm not going to the ATM, or, if I approach an ATM and I see a group of young men idling around it, I choose another ATM.
Yes.
Because one, I don't want the conversation. Two, there may be some danger there. But when you're sitting in the privacy of your home, surrounded by all your grilled up doors, and you decide to just take a run to the bank account and take some money out, you're not seeing the dangers that are lurking. And well, obviously, I'd need not say anymore. So the awareness that there are these dangers is amongst the things that persons have to develop a skill for it and understand the architecture for firewalls and security systems and, as you say, be aware, be wary of the free Wi-Fi's. A lot of us don't want to pay for stuff, but you're sitting in an airport and they tell you free Wi-Fi. As you say,
Yeah.
be very careful of that. At least that tip we can give on this program. Free
Yes.
applications as well, says the producer from the sideline. I wanted to know if he would join us because he's a technology aficionado himself. But what would you say about free applications?
Well, nothing is free.
Somebody paying for it.
You're paying for it, not somebody.
Yeah.
You are paying for it
It's
one
just how-
way or another.
It's just how you're paying for it.
It's how.
But that, as the pastor would say, I mean, not even salvation is free. I mean,
Somebody paid for
yes.
it. Jesus
Yes.
paid it all.
And paid a high price. too,
Ah,
what
with
you
his
say.
life, anyway.
You can't
Right,
pay a
so-
higher price.
So free applications are in essence saying, listen, I'll give you this free on condition that I can use all the information
That
Everything that you do.
that you have, that you'll be using, and maybe all the information that's on your phone. And
wow.
yes.
That you
yeah.
don't even know that they have all that access.
Yeah, but the trade-off is always this, I will give up this for the convenience.
Yeah, okay.
That's what the trade-off is. Just that you don't know what you're giving up for the convenience.
And they're not telling you.
Oh, they're not telling you. Because it's, but they have told you, just like they put it in the
When
fine
they
print.
or when they
right?
say, you sign to,
Yes.
you accept that
You have
these
accepted
things will
this.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Not all of them ask you whether they can have access to your photos and your contacts or your location
Everything.
and so on.
Usually it's everything
Yeah,
they want.
usually it's everything.
Yeah,
that
they want everything that
you
you
should
have.
assume that it's everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
And persons willingly give it up because they're saying, listen, this is far more convenient. And that's one of the big advantages of using technology.
Convenience.
The convenience of doing things. You mentioned earlier on about being able to pay your bills online. I have, even before COVID, I have no patience for going in line.
Standing in
Yeah,
institutions,
I have
long lines.
I have
and
no patience
yes,
for it.
nor do I.
So I will go online, and usually it's my wife who does this anyway. No, I have to say who is the chancellor of the exchequer here.
Yes, man. Big up. I was just about to say who is doing that.
Yeah, and she's not feeling too well, so I just want to big her up this morning.
Oh.
But
You
she's the
better.
chancellor of the exchequer, and she does all of the bill payments. But we have been doing this all along.
So you're very comfortable and confident about your online transactions.
Oh, yes.
What gave you that degree of confidence?
It's an unfair question to ask me because I may not represent all and sundry because I'm in the space and understand
But
the space.
sometimes I know quite a few professionals who, because of their knowledge,
Yes.
stay away from certain things.
Yes.
Yeah, that,
But-
yes.
Yes.
That's the guy.
But your professionalism and your knowledge has caused you to be confident, which means that other persons can be less informed than you, can develop a similar degree of confidence.
Yes. There one of the notions that people tended to have and may still have is that doing things in Jamaica is not as secure. Doing things online in Jamaica is not as secure as doing it elsewhere.
Elsewhere.
But that's not true.
It's
That is
actually the
far from
opposite.
truth. It is as secure as anywhere else.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it might be more secure as some other places because
There were a lot of hackers.
with the hackers and the raiders might not be as prevalent in Jamaica.
they
As in,
don't care doing it as long as they can make money. It's an equal opportunity thing. Yeah, they really don't care. But there has been this view that, well, you know what, I'd rather do this overseas than in Jamaica. But
Not me.
But it doesn't make a difference. Your security online generally is the same as anywhere else, and therefore, you should feel as secure if you're doing anything online. The other thing why I think I have become very comfortable online is that I understand the technology And persons, for instance, if you're going online and you're doing a transaction, you'd want to see a closed padlock as opposed to an open padlock, because
yes.
the closed padlock suggests that, well, okay,
It's encrypted.
it's
and
encrypted
secure.
and therefore safe. And especially when you're paying with credit cards and all of that, if something happens and you have not been negligent in any way, the credit card company
will cover you.
will cover it. Will
Yes.
cover you. But understand too, that the way the credit card company
Takes so long.
operates, is that no, they factor all of this in their cost.
Okay.
So you
That's
have-
your
so
earlier
you're
point
really-
that you
Yeah,
have
man.
made.
So
They
you're
factor all of this-
self-insured.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
You have
Because
self-insured.
all of this is factored up front. You're doing a business. You're going to
Okay.
try to determine
This
well,
information.
Percentage
Yes.
of risk.
right.
Okay.
And you're going to use technology too to find out, well, okay, is this the buying pattern of person X? And if you see any deviation from that, it raises a flag to say, well, okay, maybe we need to get in touch with this person to find out, have you been to Canada lately? Are you in Canada? No.
Yes,
Shopping.
they'll send you,
right?
or they just shut
Because-
down your card
yes,
and send you a
right,
message.
to say,
Call me.
we have seen some suspicious activity on your credit card, and therefore, so all of these things are
Working
all
to protect
part
you.
and parcel of what takes place, and again, it's still the use of technology that is doing it.
That drives the security.
That drives it, right.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at other things that we do online, and we even take them for granted, booking a airline ticket,
right.
renting a car,
Hotel
buying
reservation.
food, hotel reservation, whatever. The way traffic light works, and they determine, well, when should they change based on traffic congestion,
And patterns.
GPS telling you where to go, how to get to a location. I mean, I call this gentleman to fix my to come and check my fridge, and he says, where you live, and I was about to send. I'm saying, listen, send me the location via WhatsApp,
Just gets a pin.
right?
And it
Pin
comes.
it,
Boom,
yeah.
boom.
And he then gets it, and he gets turn by turn, and he comes to me. I no longer need to. And listen, I didn't use it before. This
Yeah.
person called me and said, listen, just send it to
Send
me.
it. Yes. Oh, you hadn't used it
I
before.
hadn't used it
You
before.
weren't,
Oh.
you weren't
Perhaps
aware
the
of it.
Chancellor
Yeah,
of the
I
Exchequer
didn't-
was more familiar with
Maybe.
those.
I like
That's
how they do
chancellery work.
it. Chance of it.
But no, so it has made some risks in everyday activity practically disappear, because if
Yes.
you have a modern phone or a modern car, you don't get lost, you don't run out of gas.
Yes.
There are some things now that if they happen, they're rarities. But it comes down to a point you made initially. You said access. If you don't have access to the internet,
Yes.
you have no access to this technology.
Right.
So even as we are sensitizing persons in Jamaica, we are still very much aware that what we're talking about, many people won't even have the full use of it, because basic access, meaning you can connect, and then the quality of the access are also some issues that we have to take into concern. One of the areas of awareness too, for me, I'm very impatient when I'm online, forgetting that the speed of the service is based on the quality of the connection that I have.
right.
So some Jamaicans are mistrustful of it, because even though you would spend more time standing in a bank line, when you're there and you're watching the things circling and circling, and there's a certain bank that I can never get authenticated on the first try, you have to keep entering. It just doesn't connect immediately. I'm starting to wonder if it's a strategy. But it's all based on the yes, it's all based on the quality, and that's something that persons need to understand with the technology, that the quality of your connection determines the speed of your transaction.
Access, though, has increased a lot since the pandemic. It is not where we want it to be, but access has increased. The person's access, meaning, one, that you have a device,
That you have a device. True.
two, that you have electricity,
Oh Lord.
which persons will get either by fair means
Or foul. By
Right.
fire or force.
right? And then the third one is that you have internet connectivity.
Of a quality that
Yes.
can sustain whatever activity
Yes.
you're embarking on. And some of those are issues that we'll take up another time, because it affects policy affects it.
Right.
And I agree with you. I think access has increased, but perhaps quality has decreased because the amount of bandwidth that is available, unless the companies that invest in infrastructure beef up the quantity, let's use that word, you'll find more people. It's like being on the road during rush hour.
Yes.
More people on the same stretch of road
Right.
at the same time.
Yes, so everything
means
slows down.
Everything slows down.
Yeah.
Important for persons to understand. We're going to wrap up the segment with you, Professor, and I'm just
wanted to-
wondering. All right, so formulate kind of what you would want to say to us about this world that we are embarking into, and if you can, ride and whistle. Percy is going to ask you a question.
No, just
now
quickly,
too.
because you earlier you referred to a world that has information and people who own the information, and I raise the thing of how do we trust the people of this information that they're going to do rightly? I leave that one with you for you to think, because I know you're coming back in terms of the whole ethics of the
Yes.
people of the big businesses, the people who own the money. So just
Are we still online?
We
Yeah,
are,
yeah,
we
yeah.
are, yes.
Oh.
Yes, we have like 4 minutes to the break.
Yes.
So
Um,
you can think about
There
think
is-
speak
about
on
that.
that.
Yeah.
we're in break now or not?
No,
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 not in
we're
break,
on
no.
air.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. There is a view that the persons who are going to misuse your information is likely to be the government. Truth be told is that as it is now, the government does not have as much information on we as private entities do.
Wow.
True.
By far. Not even close.
Not even a fraction.
Not even
I
close.
would say.
Right? Private entities have far more information on us. And for me to make this a little bit more candid, foreign private entities
Absolutely.
have far more information on us than any local entity have on us.
Wow.
Because the more information that you feed into any of these platforms is the better that overall they create a profile of you and what you do and your likes and dislikes and all that kind of a thing. So you create a profile of the person based on all the information that you give. Now, and a platform will say, listen, tell me about yourself, give me background information, which
As
school
you are
go
registering.
to, everything.
How did you hear about
right?
us?
Everything and all that information gets parceled to create a profile of you. Now, let me just touch on something controversial here.
Highest bidder.
Say that again.
Highest bidder.
No. I'm going somewhere else here now. In terms of digital wallets, for instance.
Yes, you raised that earlier. Yeah.
Digital wallets removes. So say digital wallets and central bank issued digital cash creates a serious issue that we have not spoken about. I'll write about it, but we have not spoken about it yet. Digital central bank digital cash is tantamount to cash, but there's a big difference between the two. If you give me cash, this cash becomes anonymous when it comes to me. It is not shown that you have given me cash, right? With digital wallets, what happens is that the cash can get tracked,
And traced.
traced,
Taxed.
right throughout the system, right? Because if I give you, give me a money. Let me see what you have. Let me see what kind of money you have.
I give you $1,000.
Ah, take it.
No, but not
And then you'll give it to me.
So you give me $1,000.
Yes.
There's a unique number on this.
Okay.
For digital cash, is the same thing.
Okay.
You have to be able to uniquely identify the funds. And therefore, if you can uniquely identify anything in a network, you can track and
can
trace
find
it,
it.
and you can find it.
It is
and I
the-
can give it back to you.
It is the equivalent of the police sting operation where they mark the cash and
Yeah.
see where it pops up.
Yeah.
They know who it was given to in the first instance, and you have to close the gap. How did it get from Pastor Percy
Yeah.
to Professor Golding?
Yeah.
We will think on that.
Wow.
But anyway, let's take a break. Let us take our break. Good morning and welcome back. We're in the final stretch, and our guest, Professor Golding, he put something on the table that I'm trying to
That the
decide
pastor
if
is
we should
leaving
take
alone.
it up.
Leave it alone.
Pastor said leave it alone.
Leave it
I mean,
alone for the time being.
Anytime you disobey the priest, you pay the price.
Yes.
Yes.
We're not going to
pull up
disobey the
all
priest.
out and I say,
Suffice
no.
it to say, there's been a lot of talk, aside from the wallet, there's been a lot of talk about blockchain technology, which goes a little deeper beyond the sensitization approach that we're taking. But when you talk about the ability to identify a currency or value electronically and keep its connection from one person to another, it's something that's worth understanding. But what I like about it is that you now don't need to have misunderstandings about value. Sometimes you pay somebody and they say, you pay me short. You say, no, man, I count it out. And somehow
Yes.
$1,000 had fallen
Yes.
between the cracks, between the two of you.
Yes.
You are certain you gave them the right amount.
Yes.
And they are certain that it is short.
Yes.
That dispute no longer exists.
No longer exists. That's for sure. So, you were asking what would I like to leave with
Yes,
this?
yes. Because he left
And-
that one alone. Right?
Yeah. I think the main thing that I'd want to leave with the listeners is that all technologies are dichotomous.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good and bad.
Like
Yeah,
everything
they're all
else.
good and bad. It's important that we know both the good and the bad about it, so that we can make informed decisions. Our decisions, though, in a lot of ways, is going to be limited over time because we tend to prefer convenience, and we will give up most things for convenience.
True.
Yeah. I maybe I shouldn't go here either, but some persons that I've been speaking to say that, well, boy, listen, I'm not only feel more comfortable going to church online, but I've also changed churches because for whatever reason.
Not feeling
Yes,
me right.
you right, and know that you have choice.
Know that
because
you have choice.
Some of us, when during the isolation, all 3, 4, 5 church,
Yeah.
because you could listen to different persons,
At
and you
different
begin to have a basis for comparison
Yes.
and choice. At the
Yes.
heart of it is choice.
Yes.
So we embrace the technology for the choices that it gives us,
for
but we
sure.
need the discernment to
Yes.
choose wisely.
Very much so.
Is it different for anything else in life?
It's not.
When we choose our politician, we have to choose wisely too.
We choose our wives. And our
Wives?
husband.
How many are you choosing?
In some countries. With your wives.
I
Well, I tell you
didn't
what,
know that the
yeah,
pastor
some
was
of us
into
are
polygamy.
staying.
Some countries.
Some of us are leaving that alone.
I've only had one.
Meet only one we have, Yeah.
Pastor Percy.
I didn't get that S on it.
And the chance of the extra
Yeah.
making sure. Yes,
He's the chancellor.
Yeah, I want to go home.
That plurality would be unfunded.
Yes.
On its own. All right, Professor, thank you so much. It
Yeah,
is
but-
even nicer to interview you in person. We've had some good chats on the
Yes.
telephone, the technology. And
Yes.
so here I go again. In person will beat technology any day.
That's how I feel too.
Yeah.
That's why it says, forsake not the assembling of yourself. There's something that happens in
Yes.
the corporate when we come
Yeah.
together. Hebrews.
Absolutely. The next time we speak, we might talk a little bit about transhumanism and the way that the virtual reality can be deepened to be
Giving
to
the
be
man
even,
headache.
to be even more intense.
I have, and I need to plug this just before we go.
Yes.
I've sent out a survey to you guys, both
Yeah.
of you, I'd like to get your number that I'd send it to
No,
you.
I
Oh,
got
please.
it.
I have
You got
already
it?
given it to
Oh,
But
her.
very good.
I was asking
Every
permission
person
to
here.
release it.
Oh, please.
I want to release it. We
Yes.
have WhatsApp groups.
I
And
gave
Yes,
the, and I gave
please,
the permission. Were
please.
you mistaken about the
Yes.
permission?
But the man come in person and tell
And
me that
yes,
it's even
so
greater
I
proof.
come
in
Yeah,
person.
I tell you, I said, well, send it
I-
out.
In
But
person
one
thing.
thing with it though, Prophet. too
No,
long.
don't say.
Yeah, but listen, if you really want to find out,
You
You
gotta,
should do it in parts.
you gotta dig deep.
yeah, but if you do it in parts, you see, if you do it one time
Eh.
and the person do it, done, right?
As,
I
as
know.
with
Do it
most
in
things in
parts,
life.
Yeah, if you
Do
do
it
it in
well.
parts, you
It's a different person
yeah.
because he might
But
say,
as you have seen, it is looking at
Tell me
a
about it,
number of
of
things
things.
about
I
us,
loved it.
and it is forcing you
It was like a
to
conversation
give-
with you, actually.
Yes, to
The
yeah,
survey,
is
yes.
it's forcing you to answer
Think,
certain
man.
questions
Oh, yeah,
about
yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
And what you
Have
think?
When I
get
when I
producer?
tested it on some persons, they said that is not a questionnaire in which you just tick tick tick.
you have
No,
to
no,
think,
no, you
you
gotta
have
think.
to
You,
think deeply.
you have to stop and say, but hold on, is this what I really believe?
All right, yeah, so,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So full confession, I fell asleep twice.
Yes.
I told
better
Pastor
she said
Percival.
that. I better she
told
said
him
that. Me, she
because
told me, and I said because
Yes.
it's very long.
it
it's
is
like
long. I
45
think it's like
questions.
49 questions.
Yeah, 50
Questions.
questions.
It's 50?
Yeah,
Did I
yeah.
miss one?
And the
You
full-
can't miss any
you
because
can't
you
miss
can't
any.
move forward
Yeah.
without answering. So I
The whole questionnaire though, is still even longer than that, What I've done is there are certain things, there are certain things that we really take for granted.
True.
Freedom, for instance, is something that we take for granted because we have never, except for the slavery, which is a big thing, right? But in terms of our everyday life, we do not understand that in some countries, if you want to do certain things, you can't do it,
True.
right? And if you do it, there's going to be persecution one way or another.
And the pandemic it has
Right.
even highlighted that further.
Yes. So those questions, for instance, when I looked at them and when I asked some of the persons who I tested it on, they said, listen, we don't have these problems. We don't have the problem of freedom, and because we don't know what not being free is,
It's about, yeah.
we just take it for granted.
we're gonna have a freedom conversation on another occasion. But I'm gonna say this to
Yes.
provoke your thought process. The fact of slavery in our history has given us a warped understanding of freedom. We're enslaved and we don't even know it because we keep thinking of slavery at the highest, at the zenith of the kind of chattel slavery that we endured. So we think anything outside of that is free, and it is not.
Yeah, but freedom is going to be very relative here, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
when I'm talking about freedom, because if you ask me, the persons in the United States who think they are free are so unfree that you don't.
There you go. There you go.
Because they are fed and they see the world.
They're only free
In
to
their own
consume
life.
what
yes,
they get.
what they get.
That's
so,
true.
So we can have a long conversation on freedom
On
and what
freedom.
freedom is and what have you, right?
Yes, I'm
But
looking forward to that.
It
Especially too in the context of technology.
Es-
because
because
technology
that-
curates an experience for you that feels
Yes.
very free.
yes.
But
yes,
try and step outside the door.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Oh, well.
You're existing in
Wait,
a universe
this is-
that has been created for you. I don't even know.
You
Yes, you
even
don't
even
even
know
The
that
Matrix.
this is the thing. Yes,
That's the thing.
you're in the matrix.
The
Right, and
Matrix.
you therefore now think that
Yeah.
that you are free, but you are constrained.
Mm-hmm.
You're
In
constrained
ways that
Yes,
are
You are
unimaginable.
free within these borders.
Try stepping
Yeah.
out.
Right? Do not try and come
Yeah,
out because then your freedom gets curtailed. But this is nothing new either.
Precisely.
There's nothing new.
Has always been so.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's nothing new.
Yep, yep, yep. All right.
Because anyway.
You know what's going to happen? We will need to do like another hour, what the producer calls beyond the morning,
Yes.
because the morning is never enough. I cannot thank you enough. It's been a wonderful experience. We had a certain amount of pain saying goodbye to Sizzler, who performed for us before he left.
Yes.
So you understand that you need to perform.
No,
I
I'm
thought-
your friend. I'm your friend here. You're gonna sing for us?
No, no.
But you need a
remember
drum and you need 2 or 3 people with you.
What was
So,
what was the song? The title of the song? that you sang?
Freedom.
what was it again? New name.
New name, new name, new
You have a
song.
new name.
Yeah, new name. And I used that in.
Oh, so that's your performance.
that was my performance.
You know what?
You didn't see the play on words.
Yes,
earlier
man.
on.
Yes,
I
yeah.
That
think,
it was
listen,
brilliantly done.
Yes.
Yeah,
Brilliantly
he does.
done.
He does. He
My
really is
thanks
an
to
artist.
you, sir.
Yeah.
And Pastor, were you enriched by staying at
Let
the
me tell
table
you
with the
something.
professor?
Remember, so me can say this now. As you are leaving, you never want me to be here, but I've been your greatest ally and friend on the program.
Oh,
It's
okay.
good. Good to meet you.
Yes.
Then looking forward to a further fruitful
Yes.
engagement with you, because it
Yes.
looks like when we begin to talk, we go all over the place, but
Yeah, man.
it is
It's
in
deep,
enlightenment.
it grows, it grows, it grows.
Yes, thank you very much.
All
Really
right, guys.
appreciate
It was really good being
Yeah.
here.
Thank you very
See you
much.
another time.
All right then.
All right, then.
Blessings.
All right, guys.
We are truly in the last 15 minutes of the show. It has been a morning. I don't know if we even have time for one phone call. Do we have time? Or no? We're not trying to take any phone calls this morning. We're not taking any phone calls. Okay. Well, you are most welcome, Professor. What are you saying to me, my intern?
We should probably in terms of that. Yeah. What we
yes.
could do in terms of the God Cares group that we have, we should send out that questionnaire in it and see how many of our persons didn't respond. I've sent it out already to groupings and people that I know, because I think the questionnaire that he has asked us is so...
It's deep.
It's deep.
It is deep.
It is instructive and it is pushing you to really think. Yes. Your brother is leaving.
Oh, you're leaving now, Righteousness? No, man, come sit by the mic and tell me something.
Oh, this is Righteousness.
This is Righteousness.
Oh,
and let me tell you, Righteousness is my family. Righteousness look like any other wind from up in Davistown.
Okay.
Righteousness over misgodliness.
Hey, hey. Oh, that's
All right,
Righteousness.
move closer to the mic, Righteousness. This is not your phone now. Welcome to the Morning Connection.
Good morning, Miss Minute, family.
Family, yes.
Yes, Righteousness.
Bless up everyone, you know.
So what has come to you, to your thoughts now from the program, because you've been here?
You know, I was here and I never really clearly because me never, hear clear.
Oh, okay.
When Sister Lady almost chanting, Sister chant almost done.
There's a chance with Sister.
I say there's a new name. Yeah, man, a new name, you know. His name is Righteousness.
Aye.
Because, Isaiah 62, verse 2, tell about the new name. And, Psalms, as him say, tell about Psalms 9.
Yes.
Judgment Yard, which is the foundation for the naming
Yes,
of...
so, and say, him shall come and judge the world in righteousness.
Aye.
Psalms 9, verse 8.
True.
Yes, so, and even Psalm 23, verse 3, saying, lead me.
Through the paths of righteousness for his name's sake.
His name is righteousness.
All right.
So like Jesus said
he want to
in
speak?
John 17,
Okay,
verse
right.
25, O righteous Father.
Yes.
John 17, 25.
The righteousness. That's what his throne is built upon.
Because Jeremiah 23, verse 5 and 6, it says a new branch, a branch,
Mhm.
a branch,
Righteousness.
and it says a new name, and it's in a bold written,
Mhm.
and his name shall be called righteousness. Jeremiah 23, verse 6,
Mhm.
say, our Lord name shall be called. It's
Righteousness.
in a bold written, big,
Okay.
big, right? Not just a fine.
You want to give us one of your poems, because we never know that you were an artist.
Come on, righteousness, godliness. So,
The one that give you the name. That them. Yeah. Give us that one. That how they were able to give you the name. You remember?
I mean, the righteous,
The
Yes, you
righteousness
were
part,
supposed to
yeah,
come
yeah.
prepared to read one of your poems.
Man, come and come with real friend, you know.
So where is it?
But me have everything I have to read.
Oh, okay,
God
good.
inspire me and God touch my mouth and
All
my
right.
words.
Do a quick one
Yeah.
for us. We have a few
But,
minutes
yeah,
left.
so which one was you say one?
Righteousness.
Righteousness.
Oh, you want righteousness? All right, bless, yeah, man. Glory to the highest. Blessed be the Lord. Yeah, man, a righteousness over mess and God over ungodliness. God, Lord, so must declare his righteousness unto the people. Yeah. So where there is no righteousness, when righteousness increase, evil decrease. So me say righteousness over mess and God over ungodliness. Because where there is no righteousness, there is no godliness. And where there is no godliness, appear mess, like wickedness, covetousness, greediness, no happiness, nastiness. The youth them in a mess, them live in a darkness. Because Jesus Christ is the light of the world, and they that follow Jesus will never be in darkness. So we say righteousness over mess and God over ungodliness. Because where there is no righteousness, there is no godliness. And when righteousness increase, evil decrease. Bless righteousness. Glory to the highest.
Amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you so much. That is a fitting note on which to wrap up the week's events. Thank you all, those online, those who were on air those who, I was going to say those who called us, but thank you, Righteousness, for blessing us with your presence and your poem. Pastor Percival, thank you very much, always being my partner in our
partner in righteousness.
Our path of righteousness.
And kingdom living.
Producer and my beloved niece who has been interning with me these last 2 weeks. I hope you are still enjoying the program. Have a blessed day, everyone. We're going to leave you with some music from the president, the Sizzler himself, as we say, walk good.
Don't book your toe.
Have a good weekend.
Yes, thank you.